Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town Council meeting for Tuesday, April 10th. It is 6 o'clock as published, and we are here. Glad to see all of y'all here. And before we get started, I want to mention that after the prayer, we are going to be led in the pledge tonight by the Student Council of Whitesides Elementary School, these fine young people sitting in the front row right here, the future leaders of the town of Mount Pleasant. So first, we will start with the prayer by Chaplain Doug Farmer, and then y'all will lead us in the pledge.
Please join me in prayer. Eternal and gracious God, we come before you tonight with hearts full of gratitude. We thank you for the work of so many people, for the success of the bridge run this week, for all of those public servants who labored so intensely to get the work done, for the public safety people, the public works people, all the volunteers that worked. We pray that everyone who was here and left knowing that the town of Mount Pleasant is a place where they would like to live, a place where they felt valued, they felt welcomed, and that they see this as a place of radical hospitality. We pray that you will always give them a heart to come here and feel as though that they are welcomed, that they are valued, and that what they have to say matters. And as we gather here tonight, we pray for the same thing. We pray that each person who is here either by election, by appointment, as an employee, or as a citizen, feels that in this place they are always heard, and that the goodness is before them, that what they present to the council will always be considered, and the good of the many will always win out. Lord, especially tonight, we gather and give thanks for all of those from the fire service who are here. We give thanks for Chief Williams at his retirement, for all the knowledge, skills, and ability and guidance that he has given the department over the years. We certainly thank him for the years of service, and we welcome the newest chief as he's appointed. All of our hopes and dreams are placed in him. We know that he is a worthy person for the job, and that he will lead these men and women of this wonderful department in a wonderful way. Lord, for all this, we give you thanks. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And now the pledge, if y'all will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good job.
Council members, I want to tell you, I hear that this student council, that all of them won with a higher percentage of the vote than any of us did, so we need to take notes. Congratulations, and it's good to have y'all here. And on that note, Chaplain Farmer took the words right out of my mouth. We just had a very successful bridge run in this town, and the amount of work that goes into that, everything from public services to first responders to security and all of that. It wasn't appropriate to clap during the prayer, but can we give a round of applause for our hardworking staff? This moves us to item number 3, compliance with the Freedom of Information Act. Mr. Pagliarini, are we in compliance?
Yes, Mayor, we're in compliance.
Moves us to item number 4, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion that we, yes?
Before we get there, I'm sorry, testing. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. I'd like to move item 11B under council old business to after item 7 and before item 8 under planning.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move item 11B. I'm assuming that's the
11B.
Environmentally. Did I get that right? B or D?
B.
B, yep, that's the plastics. To would come between 7 and 8.
Correct.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of amending the agenda as the motion states, please say so by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So we now have an amended agenda. Now do I hear a motion that we approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amended agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 We have an amended agenda. That moves us to item number 5, public hearings, awards, and presentations. Mr. Ulma.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. First public hearing this evening is the second public hearing to amend the development agreement for Carolina Park. You're familiar with this project, and what's happening here is the amendment involves changing Exhibit C, which relates to the Planned Development District, which is an exhibit within the development agreement for this project. Carolina Park, as you know, is in the northern part of town, and the request for the PD will recodify and collect all of the various amendments that have been approved in the past by the council and would create one new document for, an updated document for reference. And I can explain more. There are no changes to the PD itself. This is really essentially a cleanup project that staff and the applicant have been working on. So with that, I'll turn it over to you for the public hearing, Mayor.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak to that?
I have none, sir.
None. So I believe that concludes the public hearing on item A. Is that correct? That public hearing is closed. We go to item B.
Item B relates to a public hearing for a development project known as Linen Place. It's a single-family residential development off Hamlin Road that already exists. The area, these are the legal advertisements for it, and the requirements for information relating to taxes and services that would be provided to the property owners. The 75% method of annexation is used in this particular instance. The property comprises 55 individual single-family lots and 3 common area parcels, and the land would be zoned R4 as it would be coming in from unincorporated Charleston County and would not be included in the Sweetgrass Basket Overlay District.
Do we have anyone here to speak to public hearing item number 5B? Anyone? Hearing none, that will close item 5B. And we move on to item 5C.
This item is a public hearing to amend Chapter 152 of the town's flood damage prevention ordinance. These are a series of amendments related to work that follows on the study that was done for the Old Village Drainage Project last year. This chapter is part of the town code, but is not part of the zoning code. So review of these ordinance amendments does not require review and approval or recommendation by the Planning Commission, so it comes directly to Town Council without their review. The changes would establish a new special stormwater management area that coincides with that particular study area within the Old Village. And the work here is to create a special set of design and development guidelines for standards for new development and new construction within this geographic area of town. We've been working with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources on review of these changes to the flood damage prevention ordinance, and the first reading of the actual ordinance itself will come to you next month at your meeting in May.
All right, thank you. Is anyone here to speak to item 5C, public hearing item 5C? There being none, I don't see anybody. We will close the public hearing on item 5C, which moves us to item 5D, which has to do with the budget. Mrs. Kotoff.
Good evening. This is a public hearing pursuant to Section 6180 of the South Carolina Code of Laws on the Town of Mount Pleasant's proposed municipal budget for fiscal year 2019. Included in the municipal budget is the general fund operating budget with a proposed projected revenues and operating expenditures of $86,617,952. The budget is predicated on maintaining the current millage rate of 41.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone here to speak to item 5D, the public hearing item about the budget, proposed budget for the town of Mount Pleasant? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing on that agenda item, which moves us to item 5E.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you and members of council join me up front?
Yes, it's in planning new business. I'll circle it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Haney, sir, would you please do us the honor of administering the oath of office to Chief Mixon?
I, Mike Nixon Jr.
I, Mike Nixon Jr.,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of South Carolina,
the Constitution of the State of South Carolina,
the ordinances of the town of Mount Pleasant,
the ordinances of the town of Mount Pleasant,
and the rules and regulations of the Mount Pleasant Fire Department,
and the rules and regulations of the Mount Pleasant Fire Department,
that I will, to the best of my ability,
that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully execute all lawful orders
faithfully execute all lawful orders
and instructions of my supervisors.
and instructions of my supervisors,
And in doing so, I will endeavor to develop the skills
and in doing so, I will endeavor to develop the skills
to enable me to safeguard the lives and welfare
to enable me to safeguard the lives and welfare
of the members of this department and the citizens of Mount Pleasant,
of the members of this department and the citizens of Mount Pleasant,
that I pledge to conduct myself
that I pledge to conduct myself
in a manner which will reflect credit upon my family,
in a manner that will reflect credit upon my family,
my department,
my department,
and my town in keeping with my office as fire chief.
and my town in keeping with my office as fire chief.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. We are going to send the new chief and his family out. Y'all can leave and go have dinner out. You have a lot to celebrate, and maybe everybody who's here to see that as well that's dressed in uniform. Thank you for what you do every day.
If I can ask the finance team to come down, please. Face the council. Yes, please. We're coming. Good evening, Mayor and council members. May I present the town's finance committee team? Committee team. It is my pleasure to present to you the National Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award to the town of Mount Pleasant. This award represents a significant achievement by the town. It reflects the commitment of you and staff to meet the highest principles of governmental financial reporting. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. Credit rating agencies and other interested parties also view this award as a positive factor in decision-making. Our comprehensive annual financial report, or CAFR as we refer to it, was judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which included demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure in financial reporting. Of 36,000 cities in the country, less than 6% have received this award in recognition. Of 34 cities in the state, only 34 cities in the state of 270 cities have received this. Your guidance and support, along with the efforts of this finance team, have allowed the town to win this award for the 30th year. So thank you and congratulations.
Marcy, would you please stand with me for the next item?
Yes, sir.
And some may need to come back up here. Want to ask several of our employees to come up that were involved in a major software implementation. We've got 10 employees. I'd like to invite up, please, Sarah Brown, who's just here. Peggy, come on up. And I know members of our HR team are in the back. Come up as well. Lindy Kazenza, Ebony Douglas, Megan Kelly, our HR director. Janine Lewitsky. Janine was just here. Come on up, Janine. Sue Messina, Angela McKee, Adam Schultz. And I did mention Brad. There you are. Come on up, Brad. Come on up. And face, that's it. Welcome, everybody. So, this is the Employee of the Month, or Employees of the Month section of the council agenda. And each of our employees here tonight are being recognized for their work in implementing what's named the Ceridian Dayforce. And for us, that's a human resource and payroll information software system. This was a big deal and a big conversion for us. But a little bit about this. Ceridian Dayforce is a human resource and payroll information software system. It keeps time, payroll, benefits, workforce management, talent management. It helps manage the entire employee life cycle from recruiting and onboarding to paying people and developing their careers. The Ceridian implementation started in February 2017 with a go live on January 5th, 2018, 1 month shy of a year. During this time, HR and payroll became the best of friends. Every aspect just about of the organization, the human resource guidelines that you're familiar with, our town structure, payroll regulations, and department peculiarities were examined. And the team goal was to make this HRIS process more efficient, effective, and easier for everyone. I mean, we literally went from a manual spreadsheet and note card system to paperless, change tracking, electronic workflow system. And so what was at times disconnected before is now very seamless. So it's a big deal. It took a lot of dedication and a lot of humor to achieve such a successful implementation. And our HR and payroll staff spent evenings, weekends, and holidays, including New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, to make the implementation successful. And I know the team often compared the change from going from the Flintstones to the Jetsons. I am old enough to remember both of those TV shows. The go-live date was the week the winter storm closed the town for several days. But the team mushed on through the snow and ice to make sure everyone was paid accurately and on time. And our CFO, Marcy, literally did mush through the snow, not once but twice, to deliver cash to employees who were working, whose paychecks were stranded in Tennessee when everything shut down for several days. So the implementation, as I said, was successful, and we were able to also test our disaster plan at the same time, given the storm. But the team's work did not stop on January 5th, and it continues, and they deserve so much credit for bringing in a very complex, very big change, very important improvement to the organization, to the town of Mount Pleasant. So they're being honored tonight as your Employees of the Month.
I also learned today that instead of handing out individual checks, we're supposed to be a direct deposit, and I think we've hit send, right? Yes. Okay. So all you have is a certificate with no money.
Check in the mail. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. It was fun. Great. Thanks again. That's right.
Thanks, Marcy.
Yes, of course.
I know.
David moved chairs.
All right, this moves us to item 6 on our
Mayor.
agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may just take a moment to make a comment, since we have just spent some time recognizing employees.
Sure.
Many of you who work in offices know that offices only work because of the dedicated administrative professionals that work in those offices. And April 25th is Administrative Professionals Day. It's recognized around the world to recognize those folks who keep us all working smoothly and efficiently. And I just wanted to take a moment just to thank and recognize the administrative professionals in the town of Mount Pleasant. They are the face of the town for many of our residents, answering the phone, they're there at the reception desk, and I just want to recognize the work that they do for the town, and especially as part of that group, and being a member of council, there are 3 particular people who help manage this group, which is no easy task. And I just wanted to recognize those folks. Christine Barrett is our clerk of council. She's down at the end there, and yeah. If you could just imagine trying to keep the 9 of us operating and in the know and taking care of our needs, and many times taking care of the things that we need before we even ask. So thank you so much for your hard work. Nancy Dispenza. Nancy's here, I know. Nancy is the administrative assistant for Mr. DeMora, our administrator. And Nancy is just a workhorse. You have to know that she is here days and evenings and weekends and whenever, just making sure that things go smoothly. So if you come to meetings and you have minutes and agendas and technology set up, Nancy's a big coordinator of all that, and she just works so hard for us and really takes care of all what we need to do our work here at council. And Barbara Ash, I'm not sure if Barbara's here or not, Barbara also supports us to make sure minutes get typed up and out to the public and making sure that all that information is done. So it's more than a one-person job to serve this council, and I just wanted to recognize those ladies. I know they don't like the attention,
Awesome.
but they deserve to be recognized for their hard work. So thank you all so much.
And the date is April what? The date of that recognition day is what, April 25th?
It's April 25th.
April 25th, great.
So take
Y'all
care of
let
your
us know if
administrative
you plan to
professionals
take
out there.
that day off, because we're done, all right?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, no, this isn't the type of recognition day that y'all went through at the Citadel, though, so just wanted to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we are now at item number 6, approval of the minutes from the January 31st Town Council retreat, the March 25th special Town Council meeting, the March 13th Town Council meetings, and the March 18th financial statement. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the minutes are approved. This moves us to item 7, correspondence and public statements. Mr. DeMora.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 signed up under this item. If your name is not called, do not worry. I have several signed up to speak on the ordinance of environmentally acceptable packaging. But signed up under this item, first I have Adam Boozer. Adam?
Hello, my name's Adam Boozer. I live on Hopcaw Creek, and I wanted to maybe bring a little bit of a visual reference to my support for this proposed environmental packaging ordinance. For the past 2 years or so, I've kayaked the same route from my house up to the 526 bridge, about an hour and a half kayaking around a round trip. And I pick up the trash in the creek, and it's kind of a therapeutic thing, but it's also kind of rewarding to feel like cleaning up the creek. But what I find consistently are these types of items. These are just a few of the pictures, but every single time I go out, I get tons of plastics, tons of styrofoam, and tons of things that are referencing in this ordinance. And I don't think folks intentionally throw these things out their windows or off their dock, and they're not meant to get in the waterway. But I just wanted to provide a visual reference so that everybody kind of understood that this is where they end up. Everything kind of ends up in our creeks and our waterways, and it's unfortunate. So I just wanted to provide some visual support and voice my support for this proposed ordinance. Thank you very
Can
much.
we get your actual address?
Yes, 1180 Manor Lane
Great, thank you.
in a Walkendall Lakes neighborhood.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Calandra?
Thank you. Joe Calandra, 2514 Harriet's Island Court. It's not about plastics yet. It's really about Highway 17. Highway 17 is failing. Okay, the design's failing, which is obvious if you're traveling the left lane. The egress lanes are too short. They can't accommodate the traffic. The traffic that wants to turn backs up into the left lane, impedes the left lane. That's something that needs to be addressed, I think. But more importantly, more urgently, the road is disintegrating, and that's a huge problem. It's disintegrating, there's longitudinal fissures, it's pumping. Those are all signs of failure. Usually these roads, commercial roads like this, have a 20 to 30 year lifespan warranty, so I'm asking or begging the council to get on to the engineers and the contractors to get out there and fix the roads, and before it becomes an issue and all us taxpayers have to wind up fixing the roads. They should be a warranty. I'm very familiar with legal. I live in Dunes West. We've had a lot of lawsuits with contractors and designers of roads. Please, I'm begging you to get onto that. I want to thank you again for getting the cars, the on-site parking off Coleman Boulevard. You may or may not have known that the design of the bike lanes were only 4 feet wide, which is against the National Highway Safety Traffic and Administration recommendations, as well as the American Association of State and Highway Transportation Officials. So that engineering firm designed a 4-foot lane with those cars, which would have put the town at a huge liability risk anytime someone got hit. So you guys were smarter than the engineers. Thank you for that. And along Coleman, I understand there's going to be a median. And I'm going to beg you again, those engineers designed the egress, the left and right turning lanes. They're too short. They need to be at least 3 times what those engineers designed if you want the traffic to flow unimpededly along Coleman Boulevard. So please, for that. Then there's, last thing.
Time's up, if you could wrap it up.
Okay, sorry, thank
Go.
you.
Okay, didn't mean to cut you off mid-sentence, but if
That's okay, that's all right.
you got your major thoughts out. And we'll remind everybody, since I think there are a lot of people here to speak tonight, 2 minutes gives everybody a chance to speak.
William Hamilton?
I have been picking up styrofoam and plastic in the town of Mount Pleasant since the bicentennial.
Would you give us your official address, please?
32 Soul Street,
Thank you.
Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. I have been picking up trash since the bicentennial, since Nixon, actually, with Troop 11 as a Boy Scout. And I've also been working for over a decade on this town's public transit issue. And I am beginning to believe that we will have $600 million of better public transit for our town and our region before we will get rid of the trash. I have been out to Mathis Ferry Road. I have been out on the creeks. I have been to the beaches. I've cleaned up bus stops hundreds of times. There's nothing nastier than a plastic bag. It fills with water. The water turns green and slimy. And your reward for getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning to pick up the trash is when the bags fall apart, they wet your pants. So instead of a 90-minute or 2-hour volunteer stint, it's 2 hours of volunteer work, go home, take a shower, change clothes, and then go out and start your day. I'm tired of cleaning up the Koch brothers' trash. The Koch brothers are billionaires. They're behind the efforts around the country to stop these bag bans. They're the people up in Columbia trying to get our legislature to take the power of our town to protect it from trash away. If they want Mount Pleasant to be trash-free and plastic to be legal, tell them to endow a fund to go out and pick up the trash. Because after this, if we don't pass this, I'm not picking up any more. I think 40 years is enough. Thank you, gentlemen.
That's all we have. Is there anyone who would like to make a public statement at this point who did not get signed up ahead of time? All right, so that concludes.
Oh, got one lady over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up. Didn't see you.
I didn't sign up ahead of time. I'm not 100% knowledgeable of what is being passed with the bags. Part of it is that we weren't properly notified. My name is Melissa Eckert. I live at 1601 Dorrington Street in Mount Pleasant. I also work for a restaurant community here in Mount Pleasant as well. And I would ask the town council to consider the impact that you would be making on the local businesses that are here in Mount Pleasant. Certainly understand the passion about picking up the trash, but it's not the restaurant operator's fault that people aren't disposing of their trash properly. Also have heard that the enforcement of what restaurants do or we don't do with the plastic is going to be enforced by the local law enforcement. And as a spouse of a local law enforcement person, certainly know that they have a lot of other things to do than to police the local restaurants, along with being a parent of a child at our largest high school in South Carolina. Would think that resources could be dedicated to help secure our schools to make sure we don't have school shootings. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Did you want to speak? Please give your name and address in 2 minutes.
Christine Von Collins, 1071 Cottingham Drive. Thank you. And I'm against plastic bags, and I'm for the bag ban. I read an article today about a whale that died because it had too much plastic in its belly. So, to this woman's point, I think that we're making a choice between local businesses like shrimpers and fishermen who want to sell their product to people to eat. We're mammals, just like whales. So, you know, all this plastic does end up in our waters. There's so much evidence of that. So much, overwhelming. It's got to stop. It's not going to stop because, you know, a business needs a right to give us a bag. We can bring our own bag. It's only going to stop if we stop it. That's it. We've got to stop it, and it's up to you And I appreciate what you do, and I really want you to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please come up. Name, address, and 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Hi, Elaine Blaisdell Taylor, 13 Dwaney Road, Mount Pleasant. I keep hearing from town council members that the community has been informed about this new ordinance that you're passing. So today I took it upon myself to call quite a few local restaurants. I called 7. Out of those 7, 3 were aware of the ordinance. The other 4 were flabbergasted. They couldn't believe that this was coming down the pike and they didn't know about it. And so I think most people don't have an issue with the plastic bag ban per se, because it's easy to take a reusable bag to the grocery store. But you're asking small businesses to replace the way they provide food for takeout. And one small businessman looked at me and he couldn't believe it. I handed him a copy of the ordinance and he said, "When is this going to end? Every time I turn around, there is another regulation being put on my business that keeps me from making a profit and makes it harder for me to keep my business open." I spoke to another business owner who said, "We are trying to do the right thing. We are trying to pay our employees more money, and every time we get another regulation like this and it costs us more money, we have a harder time doing the right thing by our employees." So all I'm asking for you guys to do is think about the implication on the businesses. Everyone wants the environment to be nice, but you have to do it in a way so that the community is aware before you start cutting into their bottom line yet again with another regulation that they are not aware of. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see a hand up? Would you like to speak? Come on and speak. Give us your name and address, please, and you have 2 minutes.
She can't reach it.
Just say my address first.
Name and address, please.
My name is Olivia Owings, and my address is 325 North Hopcall Drive. Hopcall Drive.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Town Council. My name is Olivia Owings, and I am in 3rd grade at James B. Edwards in Mount Pleasant. I support the ban of plastic bags in Mount Pleasant, and here are some reasons why. 1, they pollute our land and water. 2, they are damaging our wildlife. 3, they take 10 to 20 years to decompose. That's like 12 more years older than I already am. 4, only about 5% get ending up recycled anyway. Solutions: giving away reusable bags, use paper bags, or ban them altogether so people have to use another type of bag. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will do the right thing and ban plastic bags.
Well, you are awesome.
Enough said.
Doesn't matter which side of an issue you're on, it's great to see young people engaged and informed.
I noticed her last name was Owens. We're not related, but I'll take her.
I was going to ask. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Please come forward, give your name, address, and 2 minutes, please.
It's hard to follow that one up, but
yeah, really.
My name is Logan Cease. I live at 1553 Glen Aaron Drive in Mount Pleasant, and I'm just a consumer here, and I eat a lot at restaurants. But at the same time, I see that restaurants are just giving out plastic forks and knives and just throwing bags at people just because it's easy and people are used to it. Same thing with straws. Most people don't really need the straws; they just kind of take them because it's a little easier to drink, and then all that stuff is just ending up in our waterways. And I'm doing a lot of cleanups with the water keepers here in town, and we're just constantly finding straws in the water and bags in the water. And so I just think that even if we can't enforce this ordinance or it's tough for people to comply, that it'll go a long way to kind of set the tone for the city and try to make a difference.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, I don't believe there's anybody else. That moves us on our amended agenda to the item that was formerly 11B, which is final reading of an ordinance. Oh, I'm sorry. Big room. Come on up. Is there anyone else after this? Okay, I'll finally get it right. Come on up, please. Name and address in 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes would be appreciated if you're that.
I'll make it as short as I can. Christine Schaefer, and I live at 63 Vincent Drive in Mount Pleasant here. I want to commend the young lady from the 3rd grade for her words, and I'm reminded that my granddaughter spoke to the town council when she was 11 years old, 5 years ago, and the town council has done nothing about this very important problem that we have with plastics on our sidewalks and in our oceans. This is very easy to carry in your purse or your breast pocket. It's simply a little bag, washable, and you can bring home your leftover meal from the restaurant in this. And I just went to a restaurant nearby a few days ago, and I couldn't eat it all, and I brought it home in a cardboard container. And you can drink your beverages not with a plastic straw, but with a paper straw. So there are a lot of businesses who have adopted different techniques to get the plastics and the styrofoam out of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, now I'm going to try to read from the amended agenda, formerly item 11B, old business, council old business, final reading, an ordinance amending Title V of Public Services by adding a new Chapter 53 pertaining to environmentally acceptable packaging and products, ordinance number 18024.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve final reading of ordinance 18024 as amended by the Police, Legal, and Judicial Committee, in addition to comments made by members of council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. That will move us to discussion. So any discussion? Mrs. Lanning?
Yes, Mayor, I have some comments.
All right.
I'd like to start by saying that, first of all, it was terrific to hear, especially Ms. Owens. That was fantastic. And all of your comments. We've had a tremendous amount of emails for the last several weeks, especially the last week, and probably a lot more of them for supporting a plastic bag ban or a plastic ordinance. And it does appear that there's a sense that that's not what council wants. And I know that I was the one person that didn't vote to send this to second reading. So therefore, I felt it was appropriate that I say something tonight so that you know that this is not because I'm in favor of plastic, and it's not because I'm in favor of styrofoam. And I'd like to clarify and then do a short presentation that I've prepared. So let me first say that I'm a very strong advocate for recycling, reducing, and reusing, and very concerned about our environment. I apologize for being a little indulgent here, but I want to make sure you really know how genuine this is. My undergraduate degree is a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Duke University, and I studied for a summer semester at Duke Marine Lab, where I put on waders and got out into the creeks and so forth, and collected bugs and other things to study, as well as picked up trash. We have at least 10 reusable bags in both of our cars, and I use them for every time I go shopping and have been doing so for many, many years. These things, by the way, are not to say, hey, look at me, how noble I am. Not at all. My husband and I support the Nicholas School of the Environment financially, which is a top school related to this subject. I do not like straws, except for certain things such as a smoothie when it's kind of tough to do it otherwise. I always refuse them or I have to hand them back. As the one gentleman said, they pretty much show up whether you want them or not, so you have to hand them back. So personally, I think that the big issue is that we need to focus on a couple key points. One, this ordinance was only introduced 2 months ago. It seems like a lifetime now because we've been getting an awful lot of feedback and email, but we only started looking at this in February. It was conceived several years ago, from what I understand, after the IOP passed their ban, but it has only been in front of this council for 2 months. This ordinance will likely affect many businesses to either shrink their margins or force them to raise their prices. Okay, we feel like that's a small price to pay for our environment. I just think they should have been contacted and surveyed at least several months ago, if not more. Businesses are taxpayers in Mount Pleasant and are usually residents here, so the impact on them should have just simply been considered. The one lady that spoke, Elaine, I believe her name was, that spoke about that she went out and talked to businesses. I've done the same. I'm on the Economic Development Committee, and I felt that we as a committee, which were one of the ones that actually saw this issue, should really reach out to the business community just so they knew. Just so we could say, okay, this is what's going to happen if it passes. How will this impact you? Can you give me numbers on anything? Anything, just so they knew. And what I found is that virtually everyone I talked to, and it was everything from Bamboo, Senior Tequila, even Sticky Fingers, which they just got a big award for helping the town during emergencies, for feeding our folks, and things like the Harris Teeter on 41, and on and on and on, did not know anything about this, or they might have seen a little blurb in the paper. They didn't know the scope because it is not a plastic bag ban. That's important to keep in mind. So I'm not saying it's bad or whatever. I'm saying they just didn't know. Third thing to remember, prices for prepared food in Mount Pleasant already have an 11% combined sales tax, higher than many other surrounding areas. Contrary to a recent news story of 3 businesses that say this won't affect them, many businesses have told me it will likely increase their cost by at least 10 to 15% per meal. In many cases, they said $1 on a meal that costs like $7 or $8. And again, can they suck that up in time? Sure they can. But why not give them a chance to kind of digest this information before we have a ban with fines, penalties, and even potentially revocation of their license hanging over their head? This ordinance will impact the lives of nearly every single resident in Mount Pleasant every week, yet many of our residents still do not know the full scope of its provisions. And finally, there's been a lot of talk about the rush. We have to rush, and the reason we have to rush is because of the home rule ban potential. First of all, I just want to say outright, I am absolutely against banning home rule. I think communities like ours absolutely should have our own ability to pass what's appropriate for our community. But the grandfathered-in deadline regarding state legislation against home rule was January 31st, 2018. If the home rule ban passes the Senate, this ordinance was introduced too late. It was introduced in February. If the issue is tabled until next session, we have at least 6 months if they decide to change the grandfathered-in date. So why are we rushing? Why not take a little more time just to make sure more people know about it? Obviously, everyone in this room knows about it. You're here, and that's terrific. You're showing your support. Last point, and then I have a quick presentation that everybody will be able to see, and we have a handout for you to take home. Voluntary programs by our environmental groups, who I met with. I met with Councilman Owens. I met with all 4 of our great groups, Surf Riders, Charleston Waterkeepers, South Carolina Aquarium, and our Coastal Conservation League. They have programs that they've used, such as Strawless Summer and Platinum Partners, which is just part of the name. But anyway, these actually had a positive effect on subsequent Marsh, Creek, and Beach sweeps. They were simply not continuous or not advocated for on a broad basis. And that's why I want to introduce a program tonight that honestly came from those folks. I met with them, we listened, we talked, we had a lunch with absolutely no styrofoam or plastic involved, which they thanked me for. And thank you to Nancy, who organized that. And so before I show you this presentation, I want to make one more point. We have wonderful young children here today, and one of my dearest friends, one of my first friends in Mount Pleasant, who I've known for 33 years, was a teacher at Mamie Whitesides Elementary for a very long time, has retired since. She was the gifted and talented teacher. Some of the people in this room might actually know her. And I bring her up to honor her with this comment. I had a gifted and talented class I was in, and I hate to, we have someone that likes to reference high school and middle school behavior, but this was in high school, and we had a class where we were supposed to design a perfect community. Now, we know that's not possible, but we were supposed to think big. That was the idea. And we met together, we brainstormed, we spent hours, we collaborated, and then we went back and on our own, we wrote our papers about what it would be like if we could have a perfect community to live in. And the key of all of that is that we collaborated. We worked together on it. And I don't know what that even says at this point, I can't remember, but keep that in mind as I show you these slides. If we could cue the slides. Okay, so the slides then, when they come up, are going to be, first, a little bit of information about why I have concerns about this ordinance. Can everybody see that okay? And we do have handouts. Do we have the handouts handy? Is that possible? Oh, they're over, okay, they're over there. All right, so there's a handout if you'd like to take it home and study it. If you wouldn't, that's fine. Or if you want to look for it a minute, we're going to have recycling containers at the door before you leave. Okay, so problems with the ordinance. Conflicts, confusing language, and possible unintended consequences. We're talking about a very big piece of regulation/legislation here, and we've spent 2 months only in just a few very short committee meetings and 2 council meetings. So let's take a look at this. 5302, single-use plastic carry-out bags. What I'd like to point out here is A says no business establishment, food or grocery establishment, or food provider may provide single-use carry-out bags at any town facility, town-sponsored event, or any event held on town property. Okay, so this specifically refers to anything that is town of Mount Pleasant functions. Now, just so you know, this has been corrected after I turned these slides in yesterday. As of 9 a.m. yesterday, when I turned these slides in to be ready for tonight, we had a correction, and the correction was to correct B. As of yesterday morning, when I turned this in to show y'all, we did not have a plastic bag ban. I know that's what most of you are here for, but that's not what the ordinance said. And you might think to yourself, how in the world could town council have done all this work and spent all this time reviewing this, but they didn't even say you have to have only paper or reusable bags. B says, upon specific request of the customer, business establishments, food or grocery establishment, and food providers within the town limits may provide single-use plastic bags. You know what that's called? Would you like paper or plastic? Now, we've had that for years. That's what we have in place now, right? Of course, a lot of times they don't say it. A lot of times they assume plastic, which in my case is completely wrong, because I always put I learned, you put your reusable bags on the conveyor belt first. That way they don't ask you, they know. And they still try to push plastic on you. Have you ever had them ask you? I come up there with the chicken, and they actually say, I need to put this in a plastic bag first, right? And I say, no, I have a bag that's lined, and I clean that out afterwards. So what I'm saying is they are trained that way, and I admit that. But my point is this a plastic bag ban or isn't it? Well, I can assure you, as of today, as of yesterday morning, that wording has been corrected, so you do in fact have a plastic bag ordinance in front of you. Next slide, please. Confusing language. So 5305 says prohibited sales. No business establishment, food or grocery establishment, food provider, or event promoter within the town of Mount Pleasant may sell, rent, or otherwise provide any polystyrene/plastic foam product which is not wholly encapsulated or encased within a more durable material, except as exempt in this ordinance. This specifically includes, but is not limited to, cups, plates, bowls, clamshells, bags, and other products intended primarily for food service use, as well as coolers, containers, ice chests, shipping boxes, or packing peanuts. Luckily, we did have beach and pool toys removed from this part, so you can have your noodle. I just want you to make sure you know that. What this says, I believe, and I'm pretty sure because I read it over many times, this sounds like the town of Mount Pleasant is telling stores that they cannot sell any styrofoam cups, plates, etc. at all. Now, some people might say, well, good, that's a good thing. We don't want styrofoam. It is bad. It is bad for the environment, no question about it. I don't like styrofoam. If you go into any store in town right now, consumers have lots of choices, including lots of plastic and styrofoam items. Is this ordinance actually saying the town requires all stores to wipe out entire shelves full of choices for consumers? Do any of the grocery stores or big department stores, such as Walmart and Target, have any idea of this? Again, my only point in bringing this out is this is in the ordinance. Now, maybe this one's been changed too. I haven't heard that it has. I've only heard about that one thing. But if it hasn't been changed, a lot of people don't know about this. Next slide, please. Okay, here's some more confusing language. 5304, disposable food service ware. A, all food or grocery establishments and food providers within the town of Mount Pleasant utilizing disposable food service ware shall use recyclable or compostable products subject to the provisions of those sections. B, upon specific request of the customer, food or grocery establishments and food providers may provide disposable food service ware. What does that mean? Does this mean if the customer asks for plastic or styrofoam, the vendor can provide it? This is similar to the one that says the store cannot have plastic bags, but the customer can specifically request plastic bags. We now know that one's a mistake. Is this a mistake too? Okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Maybe someone can clarify for that when we go on. Okay, next one, please. Unintended consequences, 5303. I'm almost done, by the way. Polystyrene, at least with this part, polystyrene plastic foam disposable food service ware. A, business establishments, food or grocery establishments, and food providers within the town of Mount Pleasant may not provide food in any disposable food service ware that contains polystyrene or plastic foam. 5306, exemptions for those things. Any product purchased, prepared, or packaged outside of the town of Mount Pleasant and sold in or delivered into the town are exempt from the provisions of this chapter. In other words, if you are a business, such as a caterer, with your location headquartered in Mount Pleasant, paying property taxes, business license fees, and sales taxes to the town, you have to comply. But your competition from outside Mount Pleasant does not. You will be at a cost and convenience disadvantage for competitive bids, thereby punished for having your location here. Are we trying to drive businesses out of the town? Now, an example of this, I spoke to Rob Patterson at Sticky Fingers. I don't think he'll mind me using his name because I'm not attributing any particular opinion to him, but I did speak to him because we just gave him an award, as I said, a couple months ago for what he's done for this town. Sticky Fingers is a huge catering business. They have a contract, I believe, or at least they get contracts pretty regularly for the Yorktown. They do hundreds of thousands of meals a year. He said, Kathy, imagine trying to serve people barbecue chicken with sauce all over it and pulled pork and green beans and salad when you're sitting out in an RV at the Yorktown somewhere in the lot or whatever and having it on a paper plate. He said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. He said, but I can tell you this much, it's probably going to cost at least $1 per meal more, and that is, in this case, a very big disadvantage from a competitive standpoint to other communities around the area. Last slide, please. Okay, and this one is the last one, and I won't read every little thing on here. Basically, the gist of it is enforcement and penalties. If a police officer determines that a violation of this chapter has occurred, he or she will issue a written warning notice to the owner, followed by, if they don't comply, there would be a $200, which this was changed, $200 violation, it is $200, $350 for a second one within any 12-month period, and $500 for each additional violation within any 12-month period every 30 days that a violation continues. This is the big part. In addition to these penalties, repeated violations will mean, essentially, I'll just cut to the chase here, result in the suspension or revocation of the business license issued to the premises on which the violations occurred. No town business license shall be issued or renewed until all fines outstanding against the applicant for violations of this chapter are paid in full. Is the town of Mount Pleasant willing to drive businesses out of town unless they comply with rules that do not exist in Charleston, North Charleston, Goose Creek, James Island, Somerville, Awendaw, McClellanville, etc.? Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Also, why does this only mention food establishments? What about all the other stores that are required not to provide plastic bags? Is their part of the ordinance not enforced? If not, why are they even included in the ban at all? Now, if you could, before we cue the next slide, which is a new section, let me just say that the point here is that we rushed this. People say it was worked on for several years. It was not worked on by this council. My concern and my reason for standing up on the meeting last time is that I felt that this was not ready for prime time. I felt we had a lot of work to do. Now, the collaboration part. Is there another way? Can we accomplish this? My number one concern when I heard about this the first time, which was in the Public Services meeting when Councilman Owens, who's the chair, introduced it. And by the way, I want to spend a second to thank Councilman Owens, because honestly, this is a huge problem and we do want to address it. I just think we can all work together and make this happen. So if you could go ahead and cue the next slide, thank you. I'd like to introduce Mount Pleasant Eco-Friendly Partners, working together for a safer environment. I told you that there was a, and by the way, I put these all together myself. I did not have help from anyone else, but I only say that because some people thought I had some sort of connection somewhere. But anyway, my biggest concern was that the ban would roll out after a year. And I'm sitting here saying, well, what happens to the environment over the next 12 months? Don't we care about the marshes and creeks and all that? We're going to do something. Why not do it where you get a lot of information and then you can roll it out in a shorter period of time? This is what I'd like to introduce, and I'll tell you in the form of a motion in a second. If we could go ahead to the next slide.
And let me ask for a point. Are you making a motion to introduce this, or are you?
Is that what I need to do now?
There's a motion on the floor.
Right.
Right, but yeah.
And let me tell everybody the way this will work. We have a motion to approve as amended the second reading of this ordinance. And then under our rules, we may go and make individual amendments and vote on those as we're basically editing this. And so what I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Parliamentarian, if you would just clarify if you are making a motion to replace this or to amend this, because if you're making it to amend it, I believe you can go ahead and say, this is the amendment I'd like to make, and then wait for a second.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think I explained that correctly? Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Just want to make sure we're all on the same.
Okay, great. Okay, so the issue here is that I need to share this with everybody. I did send an email to council members that I was going to be introducing this. I did reach out to everybody to try as many as I could and had some folks respond to me to try to talk about it ahead. All right, so April 21st, 2018, which is only less than 2 weeks away, 11 days, is Earth Day. In honor of Earth Day, Mayor Will Haney could proclaim this day Mount Pleasant Eco-Friendly Partners Day. The town of Mount Pleasant kicks off an art contest for the best design to illustrate the theme, Let's Keep Mount Pleasant Eco-Friendly and Beautiful. All businesses in Mount Pleasant who provide a bag and other single-use items for transporting goods are provided with criteria to become Mount Pleasant Eco-Friendly Partners. We would have to send a mailing anyway to notify them if we vote on a ban tonight. So instead, we send them this, where they're able to, as you'll see in a minute, next slide, please, they're able to participate if they choose to. Of course, we're going to encourage them pretty strongly to do so. So the criteria, businesses would choose 5 options from the list of eco-friendly practices. Business owners and managers would sign a pledge to follow these practices for 1 year. We call that taking the pledge. The town of Mount Pleasant, working together with environmental groups, local media, and other interested partners, would provide positive publicity for businesses that take the pledge. The town of Mount Pleasant will provide 50 reusable bags. The young lady said, what about giving everybody reusable bags? Here it is, with the slogan and design for the first 100 businesses in town who take the pledge. And by the way, what we would do, one thought I had was we'd have 5 designs chosen maybe by our HR department who said they'd love to be helpful with this. And then we could put it online and let the citizens vote on the best design. And then that would be something that would be on the bags. Next slide, please. Ongoing support for this initiative. The Public Services and Human Resource Committees of Town Council could work together, along with the associated departments of the town, to stay in touch with businesses to assist them in keeping the pledge. Local environmental groups can help lead Marsh Creek and other litter sweeps that they already do. I'm not asking them to do anything new. They already do that. But we would have volunteers from all over the business community to go with them. So we would be adding a lot more people. And definitely, we do think that Jack Hamilton, William Hamilton, should have a rest. He's worked very hard for too long on this. The Public Service Department can assist with providing data as to the impact of this initiative. That's going to be hard because we don't have any data from before, but what we can do is we can start having data going forward. Next slide, please. Here's the list of possible options, and I think this is key. Some of these are just like what would be in the ban, but let's take a look at it for a second. Provide straws only on request and switch to non-plastic straws. In case you don't know, the pretty spiral straws that are paper, which are becoming very popular. By the way, Playa Taco has them. We just did a ribbon cutting for them, and they have them already. They are very expensive. They're 24 to 28 times the cost of plastic. But the great news is if you don't give them to everybody, unless they ask for them, you don't have to give as many out. So it's very easy to make that switch. They could switch all takeout containers to compostable material. Keep in mind, the purpose here is to show you that they could choose 5 of these. Switch all cups to compostable. Stop using or providing plastic bags. Provide at least 1 employee per quarter to participate in clean sweeps of marshes, creeks, etc. Adopt a road or highway 1-mile section in Mount Pleasant for the business to keep clean once a month. Stop selling styrofoam products to customers. This would be for retail stores. Provide recycling facilities on premises. And create a composting area where feasible. And by the way, I just learned quite a bit, thanks to my husband, about the wonderful composting facility we have on Bees Ferry Road in Charleston. I don't know if all of you know that. I know for a fact a lot of Mount Pleasant restaurants are not taking advantage of that, so this would help them become more aware and actually start taking advantage of it. By being able to choose the options and by being able to buy into this, this is collaboration. This is allowing businesses to do what fits their business model the best and not necessarily feel like they're forced to do something. Let's go to the next slide. We're almost done. The benefits of this initiative, businesses will see that the town is reaching out to partner with them, creating a positive attitude. This initiative cannot be stopped by the prospective anti-home rule legislation in Columbia. Our police will be able to continue their great work fighting crime, not plastic and styrofoam. Many businesses may choose to adopt a highway and or help clean the marshes and creeks, and not only does this address the resulting problem of litter, it may convince them why we need to get rid of plastic and styrofoam as quickly as possible without a ban. If they're out there cleaning it up like Jack's been doing, you say, oh my gosh, these plastic bags are disgusting. And that might actually say, that's it, I'm done. I'm going to start making sure people bring their reusable bags. This initiative will start immediately, as opposed to waiting one full year. Let's get going now to clean up Mount Pleasant and keep her that way. The community building spirit is infectious. Residents and tourists alike will see our efforts and want to participate. And if you don't believe that, go to a community that's already doing this grassroots effort, as my family and I have been recently, and it is exciting. People get excited, they can see it, and they all want to take part. We as a town may serve as a model for other communities throughout the country. Many places where bans are in effect are dealing with some negative issues, whereas we will be able to demonstrate that you can get it done by working together. And if you could please, I think that might be the last slide. Okay, thank you. So in short, I would, okay, my comments now will be short. I would like to make a motion that we amend the proposed ordinance and replace it with an initiative called Mount Pleasant Eco-Friendly Partners, so that at least for the next 6 months, we can give this a try, working together, before we decide and vote on a ban. That's my motion.
Okay, before anybody speaks, let's get a ruling. So we have a motion and a second to approve as amended the second reading of what we were presented. I need to ask the parliamentarian if this motion can be presented at this time, because it would basically be replacing the ordinance that we have before us, if I understand your motion correctly. So I need a point of order.
Right, it's couched as an amendment. In order for the proposal to have effect, it would have to be generated as an ordinance from council from the start. I think council can vote on it as an amendment, but understand it has the effect of terminating this ordinance, which would be the effect it would have tonight, but it would have to start through the public process again, if that makes sense to you.
Okay, so your motion is as an amendment to ordinance with the number that's published and all of that. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? No second? All right, hearing none, the motion dies for a lack of second. I will say, giving myself the floor briefly, there are many things, and as we discussed earlier, that I think have merit that I'm willing to work on, but I personally am not willing to completely replace what we have before us. So that's where I stand on that. So now we have the motion to pass as amended this ordinance on second reading. We're in discussion on that. We have 20-something people signed up to speak. Shall we listen to the public first? And I will say, once the public has spoken, once you have had your time to speak, and council begins its deliberation, it's not a debate between council and the public, it's a debate among council members ourselves. So speak now and let us hear what you have to hear. 2 minutes. If you can make it shorter, if someone else has already made your point, just mention that I agree with the point that was just made. If we could call out like 3 at a time, please line up, and that'll save us a lot of transition time, because as it is now, we might be 40 minutes listening to comments.
Okay. First speaker, Olivia Owings. Followed, okay. Mike Johnson is the first speaker, followed by Ryan Cockrell.
Hi, ladies, gentlemen.
And Mary Horace.
Name and address in 2 minutes, please.
right, I'm Mike Johnson, and I'm at 1304 Lake Bluff Court in Mount Pleasant. And I agree with Kathy, and I do know there's problems that have to be done. And when I was walking in here and Olivia was right in front of me, and I said, "Oh, please, don't let her talk before me." And you did a great job, young lady, and you weren't nervous, and I'm so proud of you, and so is everyone else here. But what bothered me about what I received in the mail, by the way, I got the information because I participated in the Turtle Trek, and so I do get there on their mailing list. But what bothered me the most is I'm proud to live here in Mount Pleasant, but it does say here that national studies indicate the incentive-based educational and voluntary programs are not significantly effective tools in addressing the problem of litter. And I just don't think that's true in Mount Pleasant. I do think there are people like William and thousands more like him that pick up things that we don't even know about. They don't announce it. They just do it. And when we think of kids like Olivia and all the others in here that just are just things have changed so much in my lifetime. We didn't have kids like her 50 years ago, and they're all doing the right thing. And I think that over time, we're going to solve this problem without having to make ordinances to correct it. And that's what I wanted to say. So thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Okay. Next.
Hi, my name is Ryan Cockrell. I live at 932 Ashley Avenue. Thanks for letting me talk tonight. I just want to say plastic is an amazing invention, much like lead paint and asbestos. Both of these products were very useful, and people were willing to overlook the risks and health hazards until finally the government imposed bans on those products. Now lead paint and asbestos are taboo terms and kind of induce fear. I think being the first to recognize a problem is really tough, and I just wanted to tell all of you members of council, thank you very much for having the courage to be leaders on this, and I hope that the city of Charleston and the rest of South Carolina will follow your lead. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mary, please come forward, and Susan Thompson, will you stand behind her, please? Thank you.
Name and address in 2 minutes, please.
My name is Mary Horace. I live at 3224 Pignatelli Crescent in Dunes West. And I also support this ordinance. I think that we need to remember it's not just the pollution today, but any plastic that you throw out today will still be around when those third graders are long past being grandparents. So we need to remember that. And I was going to ask you about 33.02B because it did look seems as if you were saying you could get single-use plastic implements. I don't know what a single plastic bag implement is, but as long as it means you can't get a plastic bag if you ask for it, I'm fine with that. But anyway, I want to encourage you to do this. You may have, if you want to do some cleanup or whatever, that's fine. I just don't want to see analysis paralysis. I'd like to see us do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Jana Davis, will you be on deck, please?
My name is Susan Thompson. I live at 323 Bayview Drive in Mount Pleasant. I've lived in Mount Pleasant and the East Cooper area for over 40 years. I own 2 small businesses in Mount Pleasant, one for over 33 years and one for 18 years. I'm retired now, but both are still in business in Mount Pleasant. I've stood before you twice to ask you to vote for this ban because it is the right thing to do. But today I wanted to give you another good reason to vote in favor of the ban. Today I called the Horry County Solid Waste Authority and I spoke with the Director of Operations, Mike Besant. He told me they have to shut down their machines twice a day to clear out the machinery. He said 90% of the problems are from disposable plastic grocery bags wrapped around the gears and parts of the machines. He estimates that they lose 2 working hours every day from the problems these plastic bags cause. Sometimes the bags cause a bigger problem and they have to shut down for longer periods to clear them out. He estimates that this problem costs over $100,000 a year every year. He also told me that Charleston County is building their own facility, and he said they will have the same problems. So I'm here to ask you to do the right thing, not only for our community, not only for the environment, but also because it is the right thing economically and financially. Thank you.
Thank you. Jana Davis.
Sarah Hayes.
Jana Davis, 1251 Center Lake Drive. And Kathy, I do appreciate all your comments. A lot of great points were made, but as the manager of the Surfrider Ocean Friendly Restaurant Program, as well as being a Mount Pleasant resident, I just want to say once again that I don't think a voluntary program will work. When we did Strawless Summer, there's so much excitement, but then over time, everybody went back to their own ways. It's just, what's fastest and easiest. It requires a tremendous amount of manpower, and we're all volunteers. We've got day jobs, and sometimes my volunteer job actually consumes me because it requires so much time. So when we look at voluntary outreach options, I think that's a limitation. We just don't have the manpower. I also had another concern. We have thousands of workers coming in from Charleston and other areas into Mount Pleasant, restaurant workers, and I just don't see them getting engaged in a voluntary program as well, like a Mount Pleasant Pride program. They don't live here, so they're not going to feel like, this isn't my home. So I think that's another point. One other comment: I don't think restaurants realize how much they might lose in revenue by. Let me back up a second. When I go to decide where I'm going to get takeout, I think about what kind of containers they have for takeout. If a restaurant has styrofoam, and I'm not the only one, so I might want Mexican or I might want Chinese, but if it's in a styrofoam container, I'm not going to spend my dollars at that restaurant. So I don't think restaurants sometimes see that they actually might get more dollars if they're doing the right thing. There are alternatives, and I think that's the bottom line. So I appreciate all your time.
Thanks.
And we had a couple of pictures up here. Do you have this one? Some of these were taken at a Surfrider cleanup, and this is just a sampling of a cleanup on the Ben Sawyer Causeway, and that was just a sampling of what we picked up in less than 2 hours.
Ms. Davis, please.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good. Next, please.
Leah Colabello.
Name and address in 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Sarah Hayes. I live at 1 Duaney Road. I think you have all the data and the studies and the things. I just don't represent an organization. I'm a citizen here in town. I think not everybody's as comfortable or outgoing to speak. So if you're here in support, maybe raise your hand or stand up, because I know some people are too nervous. I learned a lot from reading your post about how imperfect the language was. I think you should correct it and make it right. But as far as the time frame and giving businesses time to adjust to this, you're 6 months to get everybody super cheerful and hunky-dory about keeping Mount Pleasant clean versus 12 months for businesses to figure out the best way to adapt. There are best practices already internationally, nationally. If you look at studies in other cities, we're not the first, guys. We could be the biggest in South Carolina, but it's done elsewhere and successfully. And thank you for working towards the right thing.
Thank you.
Christy Hollins.
Good evening. My name is Leah Colabello. I live at 558 Palmetto Battery Way. I have worked in the field of marine plastic pollution for more than 5 years. I am commenting in support of ordinance number 18024 and would like to address a conversation in Aspen that a council member from Mount Pleasant had a few weeks ago. During that trip, the council member spoke with Dr. Liz Chapman, the City of Aspen's Waste Reduction and Environmental Health Specialist. The council member from Mount Pleasant posted a recap of the conversation with Dr. Chapman on a Facebook page, claiming that Dr. Chapman was, quote, shocked, end quote, by the procedures that are happening in Mount Pleasant regarding this ordinance. Interestingly enough, Dr. Chapman and I know each other. We were on an ocean plastic pollution panel together in Aspen 6 months ago, and I reached out to Dr. Chapman to clarify her perspective. It appears that Dr. Chapman was not made aware of many things during the conversation with a council member from Mount Pleasant. Dr. Chapman clarified her position in an email to me that I put in front of you this evening. She did not understand that our city, unlike hers, is racing against the clock to put an ordinance in place. It was beyond belief that a state legislature would strip a municipality of making a decision about single-use plastics. She did not understand that. At the conclusion of her email, Dr. Chapman provides excellent guidance. And breaking news from Aspen, the council there, after talking to second graders actually this week, is now looking at a plastic straw ordinance. So if Mount Pleasant looks to Aspen as a model city, bear in mind that Dr. Chapman has advised us that good governance is recognized when ordinances are required to change practices. Sometimes this happens quickly, and other times it can take years. Circumstances dictate how urgently we must move from voluntary actions to required. I hope Mount Pleasant can navigate this current issue in a way that serves the needs and long-term benefits of the community in a timely manner. Our circumstances are quite different from Aspen's. We in Mount Pleasant are facing a critical moment because the state Senate has HB 3529 pending that would restrict forever the ability of municipalities, including the town of Mount Pleasant, to limit the impact that single-use plastics have on our environment. Should the bill pass the Senate, the window of opportunity to reduce plastics that are polluting our environment is closed forever. Therefore, I urge you to vote in favor of Ordinance 18024. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
James Garton.
Name, address,
Hello.
2 minutes.
Hi, Christy Hollins, 196 Hibbin Street. Good evening. I love being outdoors. I spend time at the marshes, at the beach, and also on the water. I participate in cleanups along the Ben Sawyer Boulevard. Plastic bags, straws, styrofoam containers, and other single-use plastic items are the primary items I have collected. There's a tremendous amount of waste out there already. Our community needs to take a stand as well as a step forward with this decision. This ordinance will prevent plastic waste in our waterways. It will protect Mount Pleasant's fisheries, our wildlife, our community's health and well-being, and our tourism economy. We are out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. So far, you win the award for the shortest comments. Thank you.
James Peden.
Hi, I'm James Garton, 205 Ferry Street. I don't have that much to add. I didn't know everybody would have so many points and everything. Just another face, another voice that strongly supports the less plastics in our environment. I live on the marsh. I walk down my dock every day, and I need a long grabber to pick up all these plastic cups and styrofoam containers that I just see every day, and I really don't want that for me and for the future of Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
Great. You're now in first place. That was 33 seconds. Great.
Is James Peden, Sally Jacob, and Joe Calandra.
I'm slow getting down here. I'm entitled.
Take your time, Sally.
I'm here to be, we have had so many nice young people speak. I'm here on behalf of seniors. We can carry reusable plastic bags. I live on Shem Creek at the upper reaches, pretty close to Bowman Road. I have a kayak. I can still get in it, by the way.
Awesome. Yay.
And I pick up trash there. And I think also the kinds of restaurants that we want in Mount Pleasant are willing to step up, and I'm willing to pay the extra $1.
Jim Wright.
Name, address, in 2 minutes.
Joe Calandra, 2514 Harriet's Island Court. Councilwoman Landing, very eloquent speaker, Duke graduate. However, I think the fellow from Sticky Fingers was hoodwinking you. You can buy 30 paper plates that will sustain sauce for $3. So it isn't costing him that's 10 cents. I also did the research, and I sent you guys. I also did research, A paper takeout versus styrofoam is about 10 to 25 cents more per each time. So, and I cannot stand government regulations. However, the government is here to protect us. And as the gentleman said, we had lead, we had asbestos, and now we have plastic. I'm all for this plastic ban. It's obvious people have not volunteered to pick up. I think your idea is great in addition to the plastic ban, not in place of it, but in addition to try to get people on board. But this is America, right? We're overweight, we're lazy, we don't want to do anything, we want to pill for everything. People aren't going to go out picking up stuff voluntarily. Okay, so that's why I want to say I'm all for the ban, and I also boycott businesses that give styrofoam, and I talk to the businesses, I tell them no straws and only paper. So I think your ideas are good in addition to the ban. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Next.
Henry Brandt.
My name is Jim Wright. I'm at 2725 Oak Manor, home of 2 recycle bins. Thank you for the time. I am a food business owner in this town. This will affect me. And I hate litter. I hate the plastic bag. I know it's hard to vote against the environment, and that's what this will come across as. It's not a vote against the environment. I think a no vote tonight is a no as the ordinance is written. It's not well thought out. Making a plastic bag ban only for now. All the photos are impressive. I pick it out of the marsh. I live on the water myself. I'm doing it all the time. It blows down the street. This ordinance has numerous implementation and enforcement gaps. I challenge everybody that's spoken tonight to really read it. It covers a lot. It's way more than a bag ban right now. Way more. It's code enforcer's job also. It shouldn't be a police officer's job. And I know that right now it is going to be a police officer's job. They have more important things to worry about. Not that the litter of plastic in the water is not important. That should not be a police officer's job. This on top of the impact fees and other taxes in this town, as many people have pointed out, will be significant. And by the way, this is way more than a restaurant ban. All right, think about what's going to go on at the supermarkets and the Walmart and the Target. I don't think they're prepared. And there's a whole lot of other plastic that comes out of those stores that's going to go right into the waste stream. I suggest you fix the ordinance. I've studied this in my business. I've got 3 items out of 45 to 50 that we buy currently that I can't find an alternative to. I'll manage. I'll find something else. But whether it's cents or percentages, I always go by the dollars. I don't worry about a 300% on a penny versus 3 cents. I'll pass it along eventually, right? How I do it and whether I absorb some of it is to be determined. But just like the oil prices, price at the pump, we're all going to buy it. And it'll go up and it'll be passed along. And I think most people will support that. But I think you really need to understand that a lot of these things, recyclable and otherwise, when they get into the waste stream, they go to the landfill. They're not getting recycled like you think.
Mr. Brandt, okay. Jessica Herbert.
My name's Henry Brandt. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Coastal Expeditions Incorporated on Shem Creek. We're an eco-touring company here in Charleston. And Charleston, regarded by many, is the greatest city in the world. And some think in America. And we've become really a beacon for most other places in this country to look at as the optimum place to live. And people are coming here at an alarming rate. And we have to manage that as well. And we have to make a choice between doing what's right and doing what's easy. And sometimes, the right choice isn't the easy choice. And we're faced with that decision now. I do reject the idea that those of us who do go out and spend our time and money to pick up garbage are responsible for that. What I do accept is positive change and no procrastination. And I think it's time that we be responsible and make the right choice, because this is going to affect everybody. And a slow suicide, like allowing this to continue, is not the right way to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly Thorelson.
Hi, Jessica Herbert, 1622 Rifle Range Road. I want to come to you today to talk about not the plastic that we see, but about the plastic that we don't see. When all these plastic items are not picked up from our marshes, they turn into microplastics, which are 5 millimeters or less. And I believe they pose a bigger problem. Microplastics not only can block the digestive tract of our shrimp population, they also have a biofilm that forms on them, which is like that algae slime. That algae slime accumulates heavy metals, which we have a high concentration of in our harbor. It accumulates dioxins, which is a byproduct from our paper mill. It accumulates any flame retardants or other chemicals, persistent organic chemicals that are in our harbor. And it accumulates up the food chain. And where do they end up? In people that eat our fish and our seafood. I've taken, over the course of the past 3 years, over 80 samples with my high school students of microplastics from our beaches, and we've never found a sample that doesn't have microplastics in it. So I urge you to look at the scientific, the economic evidence, learn from our businesses that have already shifted away from these single-use products, and use that to guide your decision. Thanks.
Thank you.
Carolyn Bradner.
Good evening, Kelly Thorwilson, South Carolina Aquarium. I've provided with comments regarding the increases in plastics that have been ingested by sea turtles, as well as information about plastic bags being the second most harmful item to marine life after ghost fishing gear. Tonight, I'd just like to take a minute to interpret these slides. This is data that has come from the Aquarium Citizen Science app, the Litter-Free Digital Journal. The blue piece in the pie chart are the biggest piece of the pie, 36%. These are plastics that have been collected and documented. The next is cigarettes, which also contain plastic. And the third largest piece of the pie is polystyrene or styrofoam. This is really significant because polystyrene is known to be made from chemicals that are hormone disruptors and possible carcinogens. We do not want these in our waterways. Now, to go to the next chart. We've taken that largest piece of the pie, the plastics, and broken it down into types. Please note that the additional 2 items proposed in this ordinance, plastic bags and straws, are 2 of the 7 most commonly reported plastic debris in the Litter-Free Digital Journal. Now, the average person uses approximately 300 bags, and that's a very conservative estimate per year. If Mount Pleasant were to pass this ordinance, considering only half of your population might be taking single-use plastic bags from businesses, this ordinance would keep somewhere in the realm of 12 million bags per year out of the hands of folks in your community, out of circulation, basically. And this doesn't even include the bags that would be given to everyone coming into Mount Pleasant to shop. So it makes sense that keeping 12 million bags out of circulation within a community would reduce the number of bags within the littering that community. And the research shows that bans like these actually do work to reduce the plastic. Lastly, I'd like to just respond to the Aquarium's Platinum Partner Program that aims...
Can you wrap?
Yes.
All right.
Our Good Catch Program, Platinum Partner Program, is amazing, but data does show, and we've discerned for ourselves, that voluntary action alone is not enough to deal with the overwhelming plastic pollution that plagues our coast. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Marlo Shedlock.
Caroline Bradner, 328 East Bay, representing the Coastal Conservation League. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to comment. We all need to work together to break our plastic habit and cultivate a more conscious mindset about what we use, what we throw away, and what happens to our waste in the long term. Though well-intentioned, voluntary, and incentive-based programs do not yield the results associated with bans. We see this even when programs involve collaborative efforts between businesses, citizens, and governments. In 2005, San Francisco coordinated an effort between the city and the Grocers Association to reduce plastic bag usage. The program was deemed a failure by 2007. The city passed their ban in large supermarkets and pharmacies the next year and extended the ordinance to all retail and food establishments by 2012. Los Angeles tried a program in 2008 that focused on consumer education and training at the end of a 2-year-long campaign with the goal that was only trying to reduce by 30%. The county determined it was not successful in achieving its goals and passed a ban the following year. The City of Charleston also tried a similar program called Sustainable Business Awards in 2004, which died subtly within the year. Voluntary measures are appropriate in some cases, particularly when you have the time to try several different options. We were alerted today that H 3529, the state bill that would prevent any local regulation of these products whatsoever, has been scheduled for debate in the Senate Labor, Commerce, and Industry Committee this Thursday. The vote is expected to be very close, and if it passes out of committee, it will be on the Senate floor as early as next week and could potentially become state law in a matter of weeks. We must focus on implementing our most effective strategy before it's too late. Ordinances like the one you have in front of you tonight have been proven to work. San Jose's ban led to a plastic litter reduction of approximately 89% in their storm drain system, 60% in their creeks and rivers, and 59% in their city streets and neighborhoods. In our own backyard, Folly Beach has seen a nearly 79% decrease in plastic bag litter since enacting its ban. In contrast, research has shown that incentive programs and educational campaigns result in changes in behavior of around 2%. Please consider the urgency of tonight's vote. The time to address this problem is now, and we are so proud of Mount Pleasant leadership for working to make history.
Name and address, please.
Andrew Wonderly.
My name is Marlo Shedlock, and I live at 468 Hugie Street, and I'm the chair of Surf Rider Charleston, and I cannot speak as fast as Emily. Just want to say that we have been cleaning up. We've adopted the highway actually from Sullivan's to Mount Pleasant. We're going to be having another cleanup if anyone wants to come out on May 5th. We'll be set up at Primetime Fitness on the Mount Pleasant side. And I just want to say, it takes a lot of effort to coordinate volunteers. People have a lot to do, and I appreciate where Kathy's coming from, but her comments about having this as a voluntary option, I'm just wondering who's going to be overseeing this, what the cost is going to be to the council, and who else is going to be involved with this. It's going to take a lot of people power. And I think everything else has been said, but I do just want to reiterate, when we do the cleanups from Sullivan's to Mount Pleasant, I mean, it's just constant. It's plastic bags and styrofoam. And I think the time is now. We just can't really keep trashing our environment. Our tourism, our fishing industry, it relies on a clean, pristine environment, and we just can't jeopardize trashing Mount Pleasant and the rest of our low country. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
David Sullivan.
Andrew Wonderly, Charleston Waterkeeper. Thank you for your incredible leadership on this issue and all the work to raise awareness and of the town's effort to reduce plastic pollution. We supported the Isle of Palms and the City of Folly Beach in similar efforts, and this ordinance has received the most attention, scrutiny, and debate of any other ordinance that we've had the good fortune to support. And that thoughtful consideration is really good, but now is the time to act. It's taken about 2 months for the town to get from first reading to final reading, and that's about the same amount of time it took similar efforts in Beaufort County, Hilton Head, Port Royal, and Bluffton. The ordinance was published in the Post and Courier for the first time on February 6th. It's been the subject of 3 council meetings now, 5 committee hearings, at least 10 local news stories that I've been able to account, and it's been debated robustly on social media platforms like Nextdoor and Facebook. At the council's request, Charleston Metro and the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce alerted their membership to the ordinance. No one responded and no one expressed opposition. Even the chambers themselves expressed no position. We've heard a lot about town-led voluntary programs and efforts, but those will require additional funding and staff from the town to develop, implement, and maintain and see through to the end. This ordinance will require none of that. But what it will do, it will help reduce the amount of plastic pollution in the town's creeks and rivers. It's narrowly tailored to get after the specific type of plastic pollution that's the worst: bags, styrofoam, and straws. It goes after that material because it can't be easily recycled in Charleston County's recycling programs, and good alternatives exist. The ordinance contains a long list of exceptions. It also has a 1-year grace period for businesses to work through existing stock and find alternatives. There's even a hardship exemption. Local, regional, and national businesses can and do comply with these types of ordinances, and the incremental cost to the consumer is very small, some 10 to 25 cents. What we need now is strong, bold leadership from you. Your action tonight can make the town a cleaner and healthier place for everyone. Town of Mount Pleasant's ready for it, your creeks and rivers are ready for it, our marine life is ready for it, so let's do it. Thank you.
Hannah Levingood.
Good evening, everybody. I'm David Sullivan, 1404 Holt Street. I'm going to try to get to it because 2 minutes is not a lot of time. Thank you for all of your wonderful options for trying to educate people on compostable and all that stuff. I think that's a great way to lead and to do all that, but it's not enough. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but making single-use plastics pollutes more than the entire universe, the planet, driving their cars. So it needs to stop way before. You have hands. I see people all the time. You get some batteries. Oh, here's a bag. Put it in a bag. Use your hands. We have this was from 2015. We had 5.1 million tourists in the city of Charleston and $3.58 billion. Isn't there some sort of program that we can do to give initiative to restaurants that go compostable to help them do that and also banning all these things? Okay, so we banned the things. Why don't we use a tax incentive with all these tourists that come here who that's what we're picking up all the litter from? Yes, it's really great that everybody from the city of Charleston helps and cleans up. We're not cleaning up after all from ourselves. We're cleaning up from tourism. Let's see if I can get through all this. 8.7 plastic bags contain enough embodied petroleum energy to drive a car 1 kilometer. This is from Australia, so sorry, I don't know the conversion. Less than 5% of plastics are recycled worldwide. I'm sure you guys know that. Worldwide, as many as 1 trillion plastic bags are used each year, or more than 1 million bags every minute. All these bags equate to around 1 million barrels of oil. It's a lot of oil just used for something that has an average lifespan of 12 minutes. That's a plastic bag's lifespan. Over 100,000 marine mammals and 1 million seabirds die every year from ingestion and entanglement of plastic and litter. The gentleman who said about the roads on 17, you know, India has a huge program for using all of their recycled plastic to make roads. They're more durable, they last longer, and you're using recycled plastic that comes from oil. There's another whole...
That's 2 minutes.
Yeah, enforce and educate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Hannah Livingood, 514 Mill Street. 2 years ago, I moved to Charleston to pursue a career in outdoor education, and I'm currently working with Coastal Expeditions as a naturalist and tour guide, and I'm very excited to work with our campers again this year. And my coworkers and I really depend on clean waterways for our livelihood, so I want to say that we're here to support that. It's treated as a learning opportunity when we do come across waste in our waterways. We put thousands of kids on the water every year through our South Carolina Outdoor Education Program, but we would really love to see less waste in our waterways. And overall, we're here to support the ban, and I want to be able to tell my clients that this municipality is taking steps towards decreasing the pollution and the plastics that we have here in Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm told that that's the last speaker we had signed up to speak. So at this point, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. When we come back, we will be in council discussion, but I know many others and I need a short break. So let's take a 7-minute and 37-second break, and we will come right back.
Yeah, you're gonna need new cops or what, man? You're gonna need new cops with plastic.
Let's get reconvened. The night is getting long. I will remind council that we are on this item on the agenda. We have a motion and a second. We have finished public comment on this. It is time for council to discuss among ourselves. And so I will be looking for who would like to be recognized. Mr. Bustos.
I just have a couple of questions. Mr. Pagliarini, between now and the time the ordinance takes effect, it'll be subject, we can make amendments, can we not?
Yes, sir. As it's currently came out of police, legal, judicial, and in the first, it's a year from the time this is executed until it would take effect.
Okay, so this can undergo continuous refinement going forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the other point I'd like to make to everyone who is here supporting this, we received a lot of emails, and the emails, I'd say 95% of them that I received said, single-use plastic bags, styrofoam, and straws. That's all. And I don't know if that was meant to be that way or it was just a cut and paste, but well, the ordinance we have is far more than that. So I think I'll probably vote for this tonight, but it's going to undergo some refinement going forward because an overwhelming majority of the emails that at least I received was very narrow in its view. So, that's going to have to be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. O'Rourke.
I wasn't going to comment, but Joe made me. So just as a clarification, though, Mr. Pagliarini, we can amend this ordinance after it's adopted. We can find out 6 months from now that we might have should have thought of something and then change it then. So I will probably vote for it too, knowing that we have to act. We've got to do something. But anything we do, if we find out that there's things we need to change, we can always change it later as a group, collectively.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Bremer.
Yeah, just a couple of comments and perhaps some proposals. First, I want to start off and say to Ms. Landing, what a tremendous presentation. You've got passion, no doubt about it, and I appreciate that. And I don't know this necessarily has to be this ordinance or your presentation. I think they go hand in hand, and I think they should both go forward, actually. Some great ideas in there. So, that being said, there was some discussion about there perhaps being some confusion in the ordinance, that the latest version that we have. So I'd like to make a series of proposals for amendments and for discussion for what they're worth. The first amendment would be in section 53.02. And I would move that we strike paragraphs C and D. Not that I don't agree that those are good ideas, but they are telling businesses how to act, and I don't think that's really the role of the ordinance.
Second.
If businesses want to display signage encouraging recycling, that's great. If they want to give out recycling bags, that's great, but I don't think an ordinance should address that issue. That's a business decision. So I would make the motion that we strike those two paragraphs.
So we're in 53.02. Your motion is to strike paragraphs C and D, and did I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Kinane made a second. Is there any discussion on those? Are we ready to vote? All in favor of the motion to strike paragraph C? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted a second to read it.
The what?
I just wanted a second to read it to make sure I understood what it said. He read it pretty fast and got a second quickly there, so.
Okay. It is to strike C and D in paragraph 53.02, which for those of y'all that don't have it in front of you is just saying what we might encourage businesses to do. It does not denude the ordinance of any of its provisions, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did that answer the question, Mr. Santos? Are we good? Anyone else? All in favor of that amendment, as stated, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No. All right, the motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have another. In 53.03, section where it says polystyrene, plastic foam, disposable food service ware. Again, I would ask to strike paragraph D. Again, that's just saying that the town will facilitate compliance with this. I think we can do that without it being part of the ordinance, however.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to strike 53.03, paragraph D. Any discussion? For those who don't have it, the town will facilitate compliance with this section by assisting local merchant groups in publicizing of locally sourced vendors and procurement of packaging which complies with this section. I'll comment as a discussion item. That's not a bad idea to do, but putting it in an ordinance then makes our staff by ordinance required to comply with it. Not that we won't probably go do that, but it doesn't really need to be stated in the ordinance.
Correct.
Yes, Mr. Kinane.
Basically, it's we're taking an ordinance that doesn't cost the town government much and imposing some kind of cost factor to go put these signs out and encourage, I very early on tried to push getting rid of voluntary things out of here. If we're going to do voluntary things, we can make a proclamation that Mayor Haney pronounces tomorrow, whatever day. Okay.
Sure. All right. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
We have one no, so the motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, I have another item.
Sure.
To follow up on Mr. Bustos' comment that a lot of the emails we received talked about plastic bags, styrofoam, and plastic straws. Looking through the latest version of the ordinance that we have in front of us, this talks in section 53.04, it talks about disposable food service ware. It doesn't really say straws. And so I was not exactly clear on what disposable food service ware is. And I think by using a broad term like that, that does lead some folks to have concerns that perhaps this ordinance is unnecessarily broad. So I would like to make a motion that any place in here that references disposable food service ware actually be replaced with plastic straws, if that's the intent of the ordinance.
Mr. Bremer, just so I can say, if you would look, just for clarification, so all council's looking at this, 53.01E is the definition of disposable food serviceware. So I just want to make sure that your motion
E.
It's on page 2 of the draft.
And so it includes just straws. It's consistent with that definition.
I'm sorry, where?
Page 2 of 9.
Paragraph E.
Paragraph E. I will be glad to read that for the record. Disposable food serviceware is interchangeable with to-go packaging and food packaging material and includes all containers, clamshells, bowls, plates, trays, cartons, cups, straws, stirrers, napkins, and other items designed for one-time use associated with prepared foods, including, without limitation, serviceware for takeout foods and/or leftovers from partially consumed meals prepared by food providers. Are you in the process of making a motion?
I may be.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So we have moved, so we are not in the realm of banning straws. Yeah. We are well beyond that, aren't we, by this definition? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
So that's very different from, I guess, what we've been hearing in emails and into some discussion. So this is not a banning straws, this is banning all of those items in the definition.
Yeah, B says straws, right under that.
Yes, sir. You're referring to 53.04.
Right, but it's not solely a straw ban, it's all those items, correct? I just want some clarity on what the intent here is so that we can...
Well, if I may, on that point, I have a question on the enforceability or the definability of saying included but not limited to. So if we're passing an ordinance, how is somebody supposed to know what the not limited to means if we don't say what it means? And so, may I make a suggestion, Mr. Bremer?
Absolutely.
I'm with you on that. I think we need to tighten up the wording of 53.04, and I'm looking for the right way to make a motion that we need to reword that section, unless we take that section out while we pass it tonight, knowing that we will fix it and put it back in.
Well, I'll say this. Since I don't know the intent of the majority of council, I can float a motion out there and see what it is. And
can somebody please silence their phone? Thank you.
I'd hate to eliminate the whole section. However, all right, I'll float a motion to see where everybody is. I'll go ahead and make a motion that section 5304, as it's written, relates only to a plastic straw ban and not the other items.
So your motion is section 53.04 would be effective only on plastic straws and not all the other items that are listed, referring back to, what was that, Mr. Pagliarini, 5301?
Which is the definition of disposable food service ware.
Okay.
And again, I'm making this motion to see what the intent of the council is here, because I'm not clear on...
Do I hear a second? Okay, that motion fails for lack of second. You still have the floor, though.
Yes. I do, and so... my notes here. I have a concern on the fines, because when you look at fines for other things in town, these are pretty substantial fines. The last version we have here in front of us is $200 for a first violation, $350 for a second violation, and $500. I just think that's high, especially with a lot of turnover in these restaurants and other places. They get new staff in all the time, new management. I think that's, I'd like to see something more in line with other fines for other things in town. I would recommend that we take a look at moving the $250 down to $100 for first, from $350 to $250 for second, and then I'm fine with the $500 being the third, because by then they've had 4 or 5 chances to comply.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I will say I was struggling with that as well until I saw the wording that says shall not exceed. It doesn't mean that it will be that much. It just means that it shall not exceed that amount. So I was comfortable with that.
Can I?
Yes, Ms.
I also think that leaving the fines where they are, because if you make them de minimis, then businesses will just do the cost-benefit analysis and determine, well, it's cheaper for me to pay the fine and not comply. I mean, I think of our texting while driving law here in the state, where it's only $25 mandated by the state, and $25. I see a lot of texting while driving, but if it was $500, I think that would be it would be different. So I think that maintaining this at the level that it is, and especially since it includes the shall not exceed language, David was something? Oh, the shall not exceed language shall be, it allows for some discretion in given the size of the business and the scope of the violation.
Okay. Any other discussion? Do we need to restate this motion? Is everybody clear on it? Okay. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no?
No.
The noes have it, so the fines stay as shall not exceed as printed in the draft that we were given. You still have the floor, Mr. Bremer.
I think I'll cede the floor now. Thank you.
Mr. Kinane, I believe you were next.
Couple of issues I just wanted to draw attention to. The 1-year effective date. It gives a full year for any of these things that pop up, an inability to get a replacement product. If you can't get it done in a year, there's 3 levels before you really start seeing a big fine. There's a warning written notice first. And the best part is you got a group of individuals who work for the town who are renowned experts at a topic called discretion. These are our police officers. I have seen some of the most ridiculous things out there on Facebook about the police raids that are going to happen for plastics, and what if there's a murder going on? Will the police be over at enforcing the plastic ordinance? What an insult that is to find men and women out there in uniform. They're experts at discretion, and some people say, well, code enforcement should do it. Well, I've seen as a police officer that discretion from police officers is pretty good, and if there's something real going on, they want to be there. They don't want to be enforcing the plastic ordinance, okay? And the people who do meter-maid type enforcement, they want to just impress their boss with how many tickets they wrote each month. And those are the ones we don't want. I would much rather have the police officers under the fine leadership of Chief Ritchie's than some new employee that's trying to impress somebody with how many summonses they wrote. There's not really going to be summonses. This is a news flash. It's like the election laws. How many times you see an arrest being made over somebody being 120 feet from the polling place? It just doesn't happen. It's a compliance-based ordinance. People are going to comply because they want to do the right thing, and not because there's a police officer breathing down their neck. So I just wanted to put that to rest because I've heard all sorts of variations of it, especially on social media. It's just not going to happen. The second thing is volunteer efforts. If anybody in here has volunteered their own personal time to clean up any litter whatsoever, please raise your hand. First of all, thank you all for doing that. Keep your hands up, please. If you wouldn't do that, if the town didn't tell you to do it, put your hand down. Look how many people would still do it. We don't need the town telling people to clean up their litter voluntarily. We may need better enforcement. I'm all for that. And we're probably going to work closely on that together. I think everyone agrees we could do better enforcement on the actual litterers out there and people dumping in uncovered vehicles. These are all great things that popped up in this discussion. They're going to be addressed as best we can. It's a tough set of laws because Columbia is actually working on it to make better enforcement and better options for community service when somebody's caught littering. So the point I'm trying to make is if you want to volunteer, talk to your neighbor because everybody in here is doing it already. And we'd encourage that. And I don't want to see the town really expending resources to create a new volunteer effort. I'd love to see the town support some of what you're already doing. That I'm good with. But I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. And there's organizations right in the room that the leaders of the organizations are here that we've seen for these last, what was it, Andrew? 3 council meetings, 5 committee meetings, 10 newspaper articles, all sorts of press conferences. I've been coming to the council meetings for 3 years, including the committees, pretty much every month. This is by far the most deliberated ordinance we've seen in this town in that 3-year period, without a question. We've had hearing after hearing after hearing, and then we have people coming out and saying, but I didn't know. Okay, I don't think you're ever gonna know. If we do all this and there's still, what, I didn't know. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you didn't know. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and I'm proud to say I'm going to be voting for this, and I understand there's little tweaks we can make, and we have a year to do that. So I don't have any motions.
Yes.
Yeah, just thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. 10 years ago, when I proposed the no smoking ordinance in public places, including restaurants, I heard the same thing. You're going to be hurting business. You shouldn't be fining people for smoking when they shouldn't be smoking. I heard a lot of different, I'm taking away people's rights to smoke and things like that. So we heard a lot of that, and we had a couple of months it went through. But I can ask the audience now, how many of you guys like to go in a restaurant and be able to eat without smelling other people's cigarette smoke? So although we heard all those things, they never came to fruition. The police, I think Chief Ritchie will tell you, they don't get called to go run, penalize people for smoking in restaurants because they police themselves. Most of those restaurants do. The waiters and bartenders were making more money because instead of having that one guy or lady sitting there smoking at the bar all night long, they had a family of 4 because they can come into there because there was no smoke. So I think we're going to find the same thing here. I think there'll be a little time for them to get used to it, but I think it's going to be a great thing after all, and I think our environment and the community is really going to be better off by doing this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next. Ms. Whitley.
I would like to also commend Kathy for all the hard work that you did putting this together. I think you generated some amazing ideas that could potentially be used, as was said before, in conjunction with the launch of this ordinance to generate excitement for it. And I really like the idea of involving the local arts community and having an arts contest and putting together reusable plastic bags for maybe the businesses that adopt it within now or within the first 6 months. So I think that this is an important step forward for this town. It's a big sign of progress towards supporting our local shrimping and fishing industries and just protecting our waterways. So.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Owens?
Yes. I too would like to thank Ms. Landing. You brought up a lot of great ideas, and I really appreciate you doing that. I wish we would have talked about some of those a little earlier in the process, but I do appreciate all that you've done. It was a lot of work, a lot of effort. I know exactly what you did, and I'm grateful for it. I'm also grateful for all of you coming out tonight and speaking on behalf of this plastics ordinance. The environmental packaging and products ordinance is going to be extremely important to this area. We are the 4th largest city in the state, and we have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but to our future ages. Miss Owens, would you take a bow? But she is why we're here. She represents our future and the best that we offer. But I am grateful for this council for seeing this ordinance through and getting it to this point. We've got a little bit of tweaking to do, but nothing that's out of the ordinary that can't be handled by the likes of these folks up here that I share this with. So again, I can't thank you enough for coming out. I look forward to getting this ordinance underway. We've got the state who's meeting on Thursday, and it's real important that we move this along so that we can be incorporated in the potential of extending the expiration period of January 31st, 2018 to something that's a little more amendable for our town. So thanks again. Thank you.
Okay, we haven't voted yet, though. Anyone else to be recognized?
I have one very
Ms. Lanning?
I promise this is a short comment. It's been brought up a number of times, and I do appreciate everybody's comments on my presentation and efforts thereof and enthusiasm about getting the town to work together. I only want to say, and I don't mean to sound negative, but when you say you want to partner with someone and you would love to have an eco-friendly partner, it's kind of difficult if it's like a shotgun wedding. Think about that for a second. If you say, I want to partner with you, but if you don't do what I say, I'm going to fine you, and I might even revoke your business license. It's not the same feeling. The positivity, the sense of doing something together, collaborating and being partners is somewhat greatly reduced by that if you think about it. That doesn't mean we can't do some of the ideas, and I appreciate GM's comment because we're on human resource together, and hopefully we can be part of at least doing the art contest because I think that would be fun, and reusable bags. But I just wanted to make sure people know that's why I didn't think of them as going hand in hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. If there's no one else, did you?
I was just going to say I'd like to call for the vote. These folks been here for over 2 hours.
We will. We will. We can't. If anyone else wants to speak, and I do want to speak briefly, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Several things. One, I spoke with the mayor of Beaufort today, and the way this happened in Beaufort County was the municipalities passed it first, and then the county passed it. So they have a county-wide ordinance that started with the municipalities, and I think this needs to start with the town of Mount Pleasant because we're the leader of the Low Country. I think the other thing is You know, Charleston Harbor right out there, where we're famous for shooting shots across the bow of people doing things we don't like. And we'll shoot a shot across the bow of Columbia and say, do not take away our home rule. We will do this. The other thing I want to say is I think from what I've heard from Beaufort, restaurants and businesses will adapt. I think they will be proud of it. But our seafood industry and the people who run our fleets are irreplaceable, and we must do this to help them because other towns can't go out. They can go out and get chain restaurants. They cannot go out and get a shrimping fleet in the seafood industry, and we need to make a stand for them tonight. So I'm through. Now, are we ready to vote? Yes. We'll do this by voice vote. All in favor, make sure I get this amendment correct. All in favor of the ordinance as presented, as amended both from the Police, Judicial, and Legal Committee and as amended by council deliberation and vote tonight?
Perfect.
Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
The motion passes. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to ask all of y'all to go out and celebrate. We still have a lot of work to do, so we're stuck. So
just don't drink out of plastic cups.
go celebrate.
It's final reading, ordinance number 18024, an ordinance amending Title V, Public Services, by adding a new Chapter 53 pertaining to environmentally acceptable packaging and products.
I believe this brings us to item number 8 on the agenda, and that would be Mr. Ulma. We are in planning. Mr. Ulma, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think we can hear you over the noise.
I'll go loud. I may not go as fast as the one speaker earlier.
That's all right.
This evening. First item for you this evening are a set of items relating to property owned by the town at 3745 Highway 17 North, which is at the corner of Lieben Road.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second.
Is that for item 1, sir?
1, 2, and 3?
We have a resolution, an annexation, and a zoning.
Well, I guess the first one is a resolution, so it has to be a standalone. Exactly. Right?
It can be. Yes,
Item
sir.
number 1 should be a standalone because it's a resolution. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Resolution 18041.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 2 for an annexation, 3 for an annexation, or correction, that's a zoning.
Go to 2.
Just 2.
Second.
So is the motion only on 2?
2.
Yeah.
Okay. So for item 2, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
First reading, ordinance number 18025, an ordinance providing for the annexation of approximately 5.32 acre tract of land owned by the town of Mount Pleasant, located at 3745 Highway 17 North, identified by TMS number 614000033, and depicted as Lot 1 on a plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Plat Book L10, page 138.
Okay. Yes, sir. Number 3.
Next item is the 3, is the zoning of this property to PI.
I'd like to make a motion to zone PI2, Public Institutional 2 District.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. For those who don't know, this is the former Berkeley Electric property up in the north end of town that will be our north end of town service center. And did I use the right word? Operations center, I guess is a better word. So we have acquired it. We're bringing it into the town, and we're working on a master plan for that right now. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, I want to thank you for letting them know that. I think in the future, we probably ought to put that kind of information on here so the general public understands what we're voting on.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to note that there was a sizable contingent of nearby residents that were interested in this property and at the Planning Commission. And Mr. Peel gave some assurances that it's not going to be a transfer station and various other things. People weren't necessarily opposed, but they were concerned.
Right.
So, I think what went down at the Planning Commission was people coming down and protecting themselves and saying, we want to make sure that these bad things don't happen. So I really don't want to see it rushed through where we just vote. I want to put that on the record that the concerns of those local citizens are noted. And what Mr. Peel mentioned at the Planning Commission hearing should be kind of part and parcel to our consideration as well, which was that they don't want dumping going on there and that type of activities. And I think the use is going to end up being the same as it is now, but the people aren't following it through because it's kind of far to get down here from up there.
Right.
But there was a lot of them at the Planning Commission.
Got it. All right, motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
First reading, ordinance number 18026, an ordinance to zone PI2, Public Institutional 2 District, an approximately 5.32 acre tract of land owned by the town of Mount Pleasant, located at 3745 Highway 17 North, identified by TMS number 614000033, and depicted as Lot 1 on a plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Plat Book L10, page 138.
Yes, sir.
Next two items involve a annexation and a zoning for an existing subdivision built in the county known as Linen Place.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance providing for the annexation of the 19.15 acre tract of land near Hamlin Road known as Linen Place.
Second.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, and we do have speakers here. So who would like to speak to this?
Michael Charon.
And this is the subdivision known as Linen Place, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I live at 2656 Lore Drive. That is in Linen Place. My name is Michael Charon. I do represent the board of Linen Place. And we had about 90% of the homeowners want to annex into Mount Pleasant. We would like to be able to vote for the council and the mayor, and I've lived in Mount Pleasant for about 24 years. When I moved in there, I didn't realize that we couldn't vote, so when I went to my voting place of where I vote at the church and found out that I couldn't vote, I was a little upset. We tried to annex before, but you have to have an attachment. You have to be attached to Mount Pleasant. So now that we are, we look forward to being able to participate more in the town of Mount Pleasant.
Great.
And appreciate your time.
Thank you. And you understand if this passes, there's no condition that you vote for any of us, right?
Absolutely.
We're not playing that game. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. I just want to ask you, did you petition the folks around there? Why did the other 10 not want to come into the town?
It wasn't 10, it was like 3. I think they had some issues with the 2 board members that we have right now. I don't think it was actually with becoming part of the town. I think it was more with the local Linen Place board that's going on.
Maybe they didn't want to vote for any of us, Gary. Maybe that's
Maybe they didn't.
Okay,
But we definitely want to become part of the town with the services, with everything involved. Right now, fire and rescue take a long time to get when we could actually get it from 6 Mile.
Good. I want to make sure you know I'm going to be voting against this because historically I've always voted against the 75% method. Sure. I mean, if you know, I don't like forcing people to come into the town. I think we ought to provide services and all to make them want to come into the town. And I've always voted against the 25% and 75% method. So nothing against you guys. I just feel like we need 100% in order to come into town. I don't like somebody who's paying their taxes and being a good citizen to be dragged into a municipality against their will. So that's the only reason why I'm voting against it. I'm happy that you guys are coming into the town, though.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other speakers?
Yes, I have David Brightman and Robert Cohn. Would you like to speak?
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
No other speakers. We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Any further discussion on council? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Next.
First reading, ordinance number 18027, an ordinance providing for the annexation of approximately 19.15 acre tract of land located near Hamlin Road, identified by TMS numbers 578 000049 through 050 578 000052, 578 000047 through 501, 578 00000503, 578 00000506 through 531, 578 000569 through 571, and depicted on plats recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Book L9, page 487 to 488, Book L10, pages 332 to 333, and Book S12, page 161.
You're giving our earlier speaker a run for her money. Yes, sir. Next.
Next one is the first reading on a rezoning at the corner of Myrick Road and Penny Circle.
Did we skip one?
Yeah, we skipped one. We're back up.
Item 5.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance to zone R4 the 19.15 acres known as Lennon Place.
A second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. How does this relate to our comprehensive plan? Does it fit into the comprehensive plan?
It is, let me see, currently the comprehensive plan designation, the recommendation is for community conservation or a low density, but since it's already been developed under the county and it was developed before even the Sweetgrass Basket overlay, it really doesn't fit the plan recommendations for that general area.
So it doesn't fit in the comprehensive plan, and it doesn't fit in the Sweetgrass Basket overlay district?
Correct. It was approved by the county prior to a lot of that work and those ordinances being put in place, so effectively it doesn't correspond because it was in advance of some of those requirements. Developed under the county, and the county didn't impose the overlay either at the time when it came in. It was a PD developed under Charleston.
So it's currently not in it? It's currently not in the Sweetgrass Basket overlay district?
Right. This would, the general area would be encompassed, but this would not be included in the overlay in the zoning because it doesn't meet any of those kinds of requirements for the character of that lower density overlay area.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, real quickly.
Yes, Mr. Owens.
Out of the 19.15 acres, is any of that undeveloped or is it all developed?
It's all developed except for the homeowners, the common area, and those all include wetlands or undeveloped parcels of property, homeowners' property, so it couldn't be further developed.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Are we ready to vote? All in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
First reading, ordinance number 18028, an ordinance to zone R4, medium-density residential district, an approximately 19.15 acre tract of land located near Hamlin Road, identified by TMS numbers 57800000049 through 050 578000052, 57800000477 through 501, 57800000503, 57800000506 through 531, 57800000569 through 571, and depicted on plats recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Book L9, page 487 to 488, Book L10, page 332, 333, and Book S12, page 161.
Sold.
Next.
The next one is item 6, which is a rezoning at the corner of Myrick Road and Penny Circle, requesting the property to be changed from R1 to R3.
Motion to deny.
Second.
We have a motion to deny and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is denied.
Next item is first reading of a rezoning ordinance to rezone property from R1 to OP, Office Professional District.
Move to deny.
We have I have a motion to deny and a second on this request that was denied unanimously, recommended by the Planning Commission and recommended unanimously by the Planning Committee of Council. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is denied. Next item.
Next item, 8A8, is first reading on a rezoning request at 1236 Melvin Bennett Road. You may remember this property was originally requested for AB2. That was withdrawn, and the applicant has revised the request to AB zoning district. There is a corresponding comprehensive plan amendment that is also working its way through the process, and it would sync up with this rezoning if you proceed this evening. And I believe you're familiar with the request. It involves a portion of parts of these properties to apply AB zoning on the northern piece, if you will, towards Bowman Road, so the shaded area to the north, leaving the residual, the southern part, on Melvin Bennett as R1 residential zoning. Be happy to answer any questions you may have, but we presented this to you before.
And we do have speakers signed up to speak. We'll hear from the speakers then before we entertain a motion.
The first is Sean Rudy.
Sean Rudy. I live at 1232 Melvin Bennett, which is a property directly to the left. I've talked to the residents who live, obviously me to the left, and the resident who lives to the right, and the person directly facing this property are all against this zoning. If you build turn this into AB zoning, there's no guarantee on what would be built there. I've talked to Tim Askins before. He started out saying it was going to be a Terminex, and then an accounting office, a chiropractor, a medical building, and then a karate school. His proposal is a 2-story, 15,000 square foot building. That's just a proposal. If he sells a property, it could be a restaurant, it could be a bar, it could be anything. And this is a residential community. I know he's going to walk up here and pretend to be Mr. Rogers, but actually he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He has threatened my wife, saying if he does not get his way, he will destroy the existing landscape. He's also cornered one of my neighbors in the Publix, trying to turn neighbor versus neighbor. This is not a good person. This is not a person you want developing in a residential community. Third thing I'd like to talk about is this letter. A letter that he only handed out to the residents on Bluebird and Robin Road. This letter was never given to any residents on Melvin Bennett. There's also another problem with this. He also stated in this that he would only put one single family home on this Melvin Bennett side, and his proposal is for 2. Another problem that I have about this is that one neighbor said he illegally put this in my mailbox. I said, how is that? He goes, there's no stamp on it. It was just sitting in my mailbox. And according to Title 18, Section 1725, it says that any person knowingly depositing mailable matter without a postage in an established letterbox shall be subject to fine up to $5,000 for individual and $10,000 for incurrence. The last thing I want to talk about is the fact that this has already been in works with, in the letter it says right here, Plan Councilman Joe Busso since late last summer. He's already agreed to support this proposal. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to stand in front of this committee thinking I'm in front of an impartial committee.
Sir, please
when
finish.
I'm already standing in front of Joe Bustos, and he's already on the letter showing that he's already with this proposal. I'd like to hand this up to the council out there.
You may. Excuse me. Just started at the end. Thank you.
Sybil Knoll.
You can hand them out. Thank you. You need one for the record? Okay. Oh, just.
Good evening. My name is Sybil Knoll. My husband and I have lived at 1330 Bluebird Drive in Moss Park for 42 years. We back onto Melvin Bennett Road. We know that someone will build on this property eventually at 1236 Melvin Bennett Road. So we support Mr. Askins and his proposal to plan to build 2 houses on Melvin Bennett Road, an office building on Bowman Road, with 10-foot fence and planted berm area, low lighting, less traffic with 2 houses instead of 5 that would egress onto Melvin Bennett. We also have a traffic problem at the head of Melvin Bennett that goes into Chuck Dolly. We have a hard time getting out there. So 2 houses would be better than 5. Thank you. His plan will fit our neighborhood and save the grand oak that is on the property. I'm afraid if you put 5 houses in there, the Grand Oak will die. And it's been there longer than I've been in Mount Pleasant. I'm a long-time resident of Mount Pleasant my entire life. Thank you very much.
Lil Xavier.
Good evening. I live at 1242 Robin Road, and I am in support of rezoning the property to half commercial, half residential. I'm also here speaking on behalf of 5 of my neighbors who could not come, and if I have a moment, I can read a little bit of the letter that I don't know if you have a copy of. Basically, what they're saying is we have all gone out to look at the property as well as talking with Mr. Askins, and we are interested in working with him not only to create a solution, but to help with the betterment of our neighborhood. We would like to take the time to thank Mr. Askins for going out to help us understand his proposal. We are pleased with the shrubbery and palm trees, and he's willing to plant along with the 8 to 10 foot fence being built to buffer the business side of the housing side of our neighborhood. We feel that once this plan has been approved, Melvin Bennett and Moss Park will be a great residential neighborhood and should remain residential in the future. We're in full support of Mr. Askins' proposal that includes residential and business. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. And I have 5 signatures from the neighborhood. And I also will have to say to Mr. Rudy that I was the one who put some flyers in mailboxes because I knocked on doors, and when people were not home, I figured the best way to do that was just leave it in the mailbox, even though it is a federal offense, and I'm probably going to get fined, but just wanted to be honest. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward Byrne.
Good evening. My name is Edward Byrne. I've been a lifelong resident of Mount Pleasant. Presently live at 921 South Shem. I'm here to represent my family as property owners on both Stewart Ingalls Boulevard and Bowman Road. These properties are adjacent to the property Mr. Askins is trying to develop on Bowman and in Melvin Bennett. I've seen Mr. Askins' plan for 2 houses on Melvin Bennett and a small office building on Bowman Road, and feel that he's gone above and beyond to lessen any impact the development will have on both roads. He has greatly reduced the number of buildings that could have been built. I commend him for his efforts in doing so, and also 4 families that live in Moss Park that are friends of mine are also in favor of Mr. Askins' project. I actually reached out to them. They all said it's a great idea. They've seen the plan. I made sure they got it in their hands. All of them have said that they thought it was a wonderful thing and look forward to it. Thank you.
Edward Hennepel.
Edward. Oh.
Different Ed.
Hello, my name is Edward Hannipel, and I own the business directly adjacent to the Melvin Bennett property facing Bowman Road, commercial, Black Forest Import Service. Been there 23 years, and we've always known at some point the property just to the left of us as you look at from Bowman Road was going to be developed. I am fully in support of Mr. Askins' plans here with the 1 acre parcel fronting Bowman Road going commercial with an office building and also with the buffer yards as he's proposed to the residential. It just makes a lot more sense than having 5 houses on that property. And I know the neighbors that are behind us, by and large, are in support of it. Not directly behind us, but in Moss Park. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Christian Ensminger.
Hello, I'm Christian Ensminger, and I'm on 1244 Melvin Bennett Road. And just wanted to give you our history with this this situation. Originally, my wife got up and spoke, and we were against building any kind of commercial on this lot here, just because we want to keep Melvin Bennett residential, and that's something we feel very strongly about. The house that we live in has been in our house for generations. We want to make sure that that continues within our family. So what happened is Tim withdrew this. He sat down with us, talked about some solutions, and I'm not in full support of it, but I think we have to come to a reasonable solution. And I am in favor of building half of it commercial and half of it residential. But the one thing I do want to stress, and I don't know if we can go back to the map that has the future plan for Melvin Bennett. Not that one. I believe that one right there. This is the thing that concerns me, is if we go forward with this commercial lot, I do not want that to open the door to start creeping onto Melvin Bennett and then have this whole area zoned on those first two sections as commercial, because that will start to drive communities or families out of this area, and that's my biggest concern. That's what I wanted to voice today. Thanks.
John Paul Taylor.
Good evening, Council. My name is Paul Taylor. I live at 1336 Bluebird Drive, and I've been there since the beginning of time. Long time. I grew up there. This is a very difficult situation because we've got a good neighbor who lives there, Sean Judy. Sean is a good person, and I want to be friends with my neighbors. I mean, that's important to all of us. And it's unfortunate that we can't disagree and still be friends, and I hope we can. But the truth is, we would rather have the commercial lot on Bowman Road and the two houses on Melvin Bennett. It just makes more sense for traffic trying to get out at the head of Melvin Bennett on the Chuck Dolly. I own a lot that's at the very end of Melvin Bennett on the right. I'm in Moss Park, and I'm fortunate to have sort of a triple driveway, really. It comes in the front. I can go out of the back both ways, go to Melvin Bennett and go to Bowman, which is extremely convenient for me. Well, as more and more traffic builds up on that road, more and more people want to use my back driveway. And of course, that's it's turning into a road. So I would like to minimize the traffic on there for my grandchildren and for other children who play and walk through the driveway going back from Melvin Bennett to Moss Park and Bluebird Drive. So I would like to do the right thing here. I really think the right thing is to go forward with Mr. Atkins' proposal. At the same time, I really hope that our neighbors, that we can be neighborly and understand the impact on all of us and how this affects us. Thank you, guys.
Collier Helms.
Good evening. My name is Collier Helms. I live at 1365 Woodlock Road, around the corner off of Vinning. I'm a chiropractor. I've been practicing in Mount Pleasant for 16 years, and I do have an interest in this property if it is rezoned to move my practice potentially over there. Thank you.
Yeah, did you want to speak on this issue, sir? Please. Name, address in 2 minutes.
My name is Larry Haig. I live at 1318 Bluebird Drive, which is right straight across the street from this property. And my concern is, like I told the other panel members, is that this commercial creep is going to go down Melvin Bennett Road and the end of Melvin Bennett. He just confirmed it. Could potentially link back up with Bowman Road, and then we would definitely have a commercial corridor. And that's just not something that the residents of Moss Park want to see. Also, I don't really appreciate the neighbor against neighbor kind of concept that's occurred here. It hasn't been very good, and hope it doesn't continue. But I don't support this commercial. I would love to have 4 new neighbors. And there is no backup on Melvin Bennett Road to get out to Chuck Dolly. 30 seconds max, either direction. So I don't know where that's coming from, but just wanted to give you my 2 cents worth. Please keep it residential. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all the speakers on this. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance to rezone.
A second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any council discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Owens.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I've been, and I guess all council members have been aware that there is a petition circulating regarding the neighbors that are in Moss Park. There's also been a letter that's been sent out asking that their names be removed off of the petition. But is the applicant here? Do we know if the applicant's here?
Yes.
It would be great, Mr. Atkins, if you could, get your neighbors together, and because you've got this petition, to get them on board with your development. I don't know if you need more time. I don't know if there's a reluctance or if there's, any possibility for you to bring these neighbors together. We've been talking about neighbor against neighbor. I think it's time to heal the neighborhood and see if I'm sorry, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay. Be that as it may, if there's any way that we can heal the divide between this petition and the property in question, I think you bring to this council, a viable product. And but I'm concerned that we've got so many people that have signed this petition. I don't want to discount them either.
Can I make a comment?
You certainly may.
My friend, Mr. Owens, this has been discussed and beat up in the planning committee for a while. Maybe something can happen, but I don't know if we're going to get 100% consensus from the neighborhood to agree on this. That's just my opinion. Maybe that could happen. So, I agree with the concept, but I don't know if Mr. Askins gets 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, that there's going to be much change in the way the people feel, the way they feel right now. And I think we're probably going to have to just make a decision. Just my opinion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
If I could. And this neighborhood in Moss Park, and this goes back to the Bentley subdivision. There were some things that went back and forth, and Mr. Taylor, Gray Taylor, stood up here and told us only 20 or 24 houses. It was sold, and now I think it's some 40 houses that are in there. This neighborhood has been whipsawed by residential development. And, I think it's justifiable that their fear may be that people will, get all these lots together and there'll be townhouses in there. And this is, a row of townhouses. Now, we know that Stewart Tree Service is at the end. And we know that there's a bank, Black Forest, and this would fit well. And then we have the tree service at the end. I think I don't want to say we owe it, but history has shown that, if we don't do something like this, and actually we need commercial development, we need the tax base. And that will empty onto Bowman Road. Houses will empty onto Melvin Bennett Road. And right now, if you drive down there and you try to get out onto Chuck Dolly, and you see how busy it is, and it's close to Bowman Road, and then you have Bentley Place. Is that right? Bentley Place? Bentley Park in there. Once those 40 homes are in there and traffic is coming out, it's going to be harder. It's going to really be hard. And Sybil, I've known since high school, and when this first came up, I called her and I asked her her opinion. And also I've talked to Paul Taylor, who went to high school, and I value their opinions very much. They've lived there, they've invested their lives in that neighborhood, and I don't think they'd come here and try to shoo anybody. I hope everyone will take that into consideration, and I think it's, having Sybil and Paul and Ouija come down here, and also Ted and Lil, these are long-time residents and have businesses and homes in this area. I just hope we'll approve this, because I think it's the right thing to do, and I think they've given it due consideration, and they've shown up here.
Ma'am, if you wanted to speak, I'm giving you a dispensation because really comments have closed. Is it fine? Okay. We have a motion. I do believe we had a second. Yes, sir, Mr. Kane.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a few things. I'm having trouble with this. Jeff, could you back up that slide that's there now. Sorry. That slide that's there now is fine. The commercial portion, what I'm troubled by is, couldn't the back of this commercial lot go straight across from the back of Black Forest? Sure, it would be a little smaller. It would accomplish the same thing.
You're doing
That's
something.
Mr. Rudy's property.
So you're doing something like
Please don't speak out of order. Please don't speak out of order, sir.
coming across this.
Right. In other words, why are we coming so far into the residential portion? Yeah, I get the whole thing about Bowman. I look at the whole map, and I was here for those contentious meetings between the different proposals on the Chuck Dawley side. And I think this is one of those neighborhoods with probably 30 or so houses that's squeezed in every direction. And what do? I don't think we have to approve this. I think the answer is it's a residential neighborhood, and the threat that maybe more houses are going to come, it's still a residential neighborhood. Once you introduce the commercial, I wouldn't want a fast food restaurant behind my house or something worse if it was where I lived. So I would vote no on somebody else getting that. I don't think it's right. I just think this is a little bit of overkill. Maybe, I think the builder has done a good job trying to rally everybody together, but he didn't succeed with the most important ones, which are the immediate neighbors. So you could talk people from 2 blocks away all day long, but if the immediate neighbors aren't on board, then we kind of missed a big part of it. So, like I said, I can't see voting yes for this, and I don't understand that encroachment down. If you want to do a commercial line, I don't love that either, because I think it's kind of this spot zoning instead of taking a grand plan. We're eating away at this neighborhood, but I have trouble with it.
Okay, Mr. Bustos, did you have?
Yeah, again, I want to say that the residents adjacent to this, Mr. Rudy accepted, but that is where every one of these people works or lives. And they have been considering this for, 6 months. So they've gone out and looked at it. And I think they are concerned about their neighborhood because they saw what happened on the other side. And, there's no benefit of the doubt here. I think this is squarely, and the neighbors have come, and they're longtime residents there, and I think we need to give them a nod. There is no doubt here.
Well, there was 39 signatures, wasn't there, against it? So, and again, my main concern are the people directly on top of it. I understand the gentleman with the commercial establishment next door. I've driven past it. It looks fantastic. It's one of the cleanest businesses I've seen. So good job on that. But the bottom line is, this is somebody's backyard. So would I want it in my backyard? Probably not.
Yes, sir, Mr. Owens.
Just lastly, comment. Joe, I know some people in that subdivision as well, and I'm sure that folks you spoke to have known you for quite some time. But to be honest with you, I might be able to support this for the first reading. I'm not so sure I can support it for the second final reading until we at least speak to the property owners that are adjacent to this property. And I'm hopeful that you can do that. I'm hopeful that you can get through to them. But I think from an issue of fairness, that something needs to be done. And again, I can support this for first reading, but I would really like to see some continuity between neighbors.
I want to add, I'm with Mr. Owens. This is first reading. I had real concerns about it after hearing about it in planning committee because I didn't want anything bad to happen to the adjacent neighbors. The more I've looked at it, the more I've studied, the more I've heard something worse may happen. So I'm inclined to vote for it on first reading. But if I'm not comfortable on second, I don't plan on voting for it. Any more discussion? Yes, sir.
I just had a question. Mr. Byrne, are you John Byrne's brother? Okay. That's what I needed to know. Okay. Thank you.
We won't hold out against you.
All right. Are we ready to vote on this issue? Let me see. The motion was to approve. All right. All in favor of the voting first reading approval for the motion to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Opposed? 2? Okay. So the motion passes first reading.
First reading ordinance number 18031, an ordinance to rezone from R1 low-density residential district to AB area-wide business district. An approximately 1 acre tract of land comprised of 1 parcel in its entirety and portions of 2 parcels described as follows. An approximately 0.07 acre parcel in its entirety located on Melvin Bennett Road, identified by TMS number 56002000038, depicted on the plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Plat Book CE, page 190. Approximately 0.03 acre portion of an approximately 0.11 acre tract of land located on Melvin Bennett Road, identified by TMS number 56002000039, depicted on the plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Plat Book CE, page 190, and an approximately 0.9 acre portion of an approximately 1.51 acre tract of land located at 1236 Melvin Bennett Road, identified by TMS number 56002000019, depicted on a plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Plat Book BA, page 179.
All right. The next one, I am not sure that the applicant meant for this to be on the agenda. I don't believe the applicant is here. I received a phone call from an acquaintance of the applicant that said they are not pursuing this, so I'm not sure if we...
Procedurally.
Yes. There was no formal withdrawal.
Correct. I've checked with planning. We've received no written request or contact
it's on the
regarding a
agenda.
formal withdrawal, and it is on the agenda.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean we have to vote, right? If we don't take action,
I make a motion that we deny if they're not here. They didn't show up.
We have a motion to deny
A second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. It is denied. Number 10.
I'll catch up, Mayor.
Okay.
This is a
Is this
request.
related to the one above?
No.
No.
No? Okay.
This is a request that you dealt with last month. If you recall, the Dunes West Covington rezoning within the PD. Council denied that request last time, and there was a request for the waiver of the one-year waiting period to be able to resubmit. And you did that during the meeting verbally. We went back and double-checked things and made sure that the ordinance requires us to receive that request in writing. So we put it back on your agenda this evening so you could take that same action again to grant the one-year waiver. And we expect a request that's revised, and it would be for an R3 zoning district rather than the prior one.
Essentially, this is the same issue you voted on last month, but to meet our ordinance requirements requires a written request from the applicant.
What was the vote last?
It was 9-0 to approve.
No.
I'm sorry.
That was a no vote.
There was one no vote, but there was a vote to approve.
Is there a motion?
Mayor, we usually don't waive the one-year waiting period unless there's a substantial reason to do that. I guess that's what we have to decide. Is there a substantial reason to do it, or, should we deny the request? I don't know that there's a substantial reason, so I'll make a motion that we deny the request.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
We need a second.
We
for
need
me
a second
talk,
to have
so-
discussion.
Second.
Bella wants to say something down the line.
After we have only if we have a second. If we don't have a second, there's no discussion. Do we have a second?
I'll second for discussion purposes.
We have a second. Yes, sir, Mr. O'Rourke.
We kind of already approved this, sort of, last meeting. It's just written a little differently today. So if we just deny this altogether, what does that do to that project?
That's the way of the year.
It builds the way it is.
Is it okay if we let the applicant speak and help me understand the intent so I don't mess this up? Is that okay, Mayor?
Yes. Please give us your name and tell us who you.
Sure, Robert Pickard, 572 Savannah Highway. This was brought up last meeting. It was discussed. We've been through committee numerous times and have taken advice of the committee and council and have gone back and made multiple changes to the request. As stated, this came up during the last meeting, and from my understanding that this was more of a paperwork issue to make sure that it was formally approved, which, as we had discussed it, I thought it was approved during the last meeting to amend our request, provide some additional language and some materials for council to review. It was, in essence, a simpler solution to a cleanup for the zoning of a property, a community that has sort of a mixed zoning, to put it all under one zoning, clean it up, not only for the town, but for the residents, and make it simpler. Again, we've been through multiple committee meetings, multiple council votes on this, and we think we've reached a solution based on those multiple revisions, which I thank council members for, that we've been working with to make that change, and would respectfully request that what was voted on and approved last meeting is just verified tonight, so that we can just fix that one issue. Again, I think it was a bit of semantics. We couldn't change what was voted on or during discussion during council last time, and this was done in order to allow us to have a cleaner solution and not require a full year to wait. So I'm available for questions here. I have worked with many of the council members here to try to make this work, and would request that we approve it.
Thank
Mr.
you.
O'Rourke has full.
So, okay, thank you very much. That helps me understand now. So, but we do have a motion on the floor by Gary and a
Motion
second.
to deny and a second.
To deny this?
Yes.
Okay, so we have to deal with that before I make any amendment.
Unless you want to ask. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
I was going to say, I can always withdraw the motion.
No, you don't have to.
I just don't have anything in front of me here.
Right.
To tell me what's going on. We, throughout the years, some councils have been very lenient about letting folks come back all the time. And so the ordinance really wasn't effective because they were letting everybody go and come back. So we started saying that, there really has to be a reason, in other words, come with your A game the first time. And if you don't, then you're going to wait a year. So that's the purpose. I've been here 18 years, and a lot of you guys haven't, so you haven't had the benefit of that history.
I think that was an insult.
So that's why I bring that up, is because in the past, we just had everybody, if they didn't like what we said, okay, well,
Right.
let me come back with something else, and then.
I get that, but here's the deal, though. Here's the truth on this. They came last month.
Yeah.
We all voted yes and sent them home. And now we've got to change some wording, and we have a possibility of just saying no. I think if we're going to say no, we should have said no last month so that the man can get mad and leave. But to say vote yes last month and then come in and say no now, that's I got a little issue with that, kind of.
Well, I understand that. I really don't have anything that tells me what he's coming back with. Do you? I mean, I don't know what he's coming back with.
We had more last month on this, and we've dealt with it in the planning committee. So today, last month when we voted on this, we had everything you're asking for, and everything was already done. This sort of is just to kind of resubmit that
formally.
Yes, to make it formal and to clean it up and to make it right.
Right. All I'm saying is maybe next time if we can just have what we're looking at, what he's planning on doing, so I can look at it. I wasn't in the meeting. I missed the meeting, so I'm not on that committee. So I just need to look at something to see what he's trying to do. That's all. And I have no problem with withdrawing the motion. But I just kind of want to make sure, guys. I don't want to get back into what we were doing before. Every time somebody gets turned down, they go, "Oh, I want to waive the 1 year." I just want to make sure that we don't do that. I've seen it happen before, and it got to be a little much. And so, but I'm okay with this, since it was voted on. But please, next time, if you could have some of the information on what he wants to come back with, so we can see, what he's done, it would help me a lot.
Did you say you were withdrawing your motion?
I will. I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Then who needs to be, Mr. Bremer?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So, refresh my memory from the last meeting. Was it that we voted to allow a 1 year waiver, or was it a vote to allow him to withdraw his request and come back?
You denied the request, and then they requested the 1 year waiver, and it was done right there at that same point.
So there was a separate vote for the waiver at that point?
Yes.
Thank you.
Jeff, where does this come back into the system now? Planning
It would
Commission?
start over.
At the Planning Commission?
Yes, as a new rezoning, so it would be an R3 request versus the modified R1 that was originally
Yeah,
requested.
it's coming back into the initial point of the system, so, whether he waits another 8 or 9 months.
I'm okay with it. That's why I withdrew my motion. I just wanted to make sure that the integrity of us making him wait a year, not him, but I'm just saying other developments. I want to make sure they come with their A game the first time and not have it go back to where we were, where people were constantly coming back and being approved to skip the 1 year waiver. That's all.
Yeah,
but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with you coming back.
We have no motion on the floor at this point.
I'd like to make a motion that we request to waive the 1 year waiting period for resubmittal of the amendment to Dunes West Plan Development.
So we have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Mr. Kinane, discussion.
Yeah, Jeff, I would just like, on this particular project, because it came up earlier, this idea of expanding the footprint of Park West and Dunes West PUD, I would like more clarification on what the ramifications of that would be in the event this one comes back up, because it could also, in my mind, I'm worried about a precedent. I have no problem with, 20 new houses being added in. I'm more worried about someone coming along with property along the airport that touches Park West, or maybe some scheme to not be contiguous to come into Park West. I just would like to know if that's been done before, if it's allowed, and what the ramifications are before it comes back again. Because I don't want to penalize this applicant for that, but it's something that we need to look at, I think, for the general idea of these PDs. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion to approve the request for a waiver of the 1 year waiting period. All in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion passes. This brings us to Section B, Old Business.
First two items relate to the development agreement and PD changes for Carolina Park, and you conducted the second public hearing on the development agreement changes.
I'd like to make a motion to
earlier.
approve final reading on items 1 and 2.
We have a motion and a second. Mrs. Whitley was the second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve items 1 and 2 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed.
Final reading ordinance number 18018, an ordinance providing for a Fifth Amendment to ordinance number 11064, the development agreement by and between the town of Mount Pleasant and CDM of Charleston LLC, Carolina Park Development Agreement. Final reading, ordinance number 18019, an ordinance providing for a Fifth Amendment to the Plan Development District ordinance pertaining to the property known as Carolina Park.
Item number 3.
Item number 3.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 3 through 6. They're all annexations.
Which ones?
3, 4, 5, and 6.
3, 4, 5, and 6. All
Second.
annexations. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve items 3, 4, 5, and 6 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's pass.
Final reading, ordinance number 18020, an ordinance providing for the annexation of approximately .92 acre tract of land located at 4318 Royal New Kent Court, identified by TMS number 632000098 and depicted in the plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office and Plat Book EG, page 761 to 765. Final reading, ordinance number 18021, an ordinance providing for the annexation of an approximately .52 acre tract of land located at 355 Live Palmetto Bluff, identified by TMS number 55600000511 and depicted on a plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Plat Book L13. Final reading, ordinance number 18022, an ordinance providing for the annexation of an approximately .75 acre tract of land located at 395 Live Palmetto Bluff, identified by TMS number 55600000509 and depicted on the plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Plat Book L13, page 287. Final reading, ordinance number 18023, an ordinance providing for the annexation of an approximately .34 acre tract of land located at 520 Coaxum Road, identified by TMS number 55600000115 and depicted on the plat recorded by the Charleston County ROD Office in Plat Book BD, page 115.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Olma. This
Thank
brings
you.
us to item 9, committee reports. I just want to remind everybody that, you know, we're in the budget process. We have another budget committee, which is a committee of the whole coming up. So the expectation is not that we will go into any committee budget items tonight. Given the late hour, and we do have Finance Committee on here, has some items that we need to consider. I'm just looking to see if they were all put in bids and purchases, right? To see if all of those finance ones were put under council new business.
Yeah.
Okay, they're all under council new businesses, so bids and purchases. Let's go to your report. I would ask all others to submit their reports in writing. Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Yes.
You want me to go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. Bids and Purchases Committee report. The committee unanimously approved the following recommendations. Approval to contract with IPW Contracting Group LLC in the amount of $212,000 to construct all work in the base bid for the Whipple Road Tennis Center Clay Court addition. Secondly, approved to enter into negotiations and, if successful, contract with Davidson Floyd Incorporated to provide professional services for the Public Services Operation Facility Master Plan. Lastly, approval to contract with Mead and Hunt in the amount of $111,920 to perform the design work for the All-American Boulevard Extension Project. The committee received the quarterly local vendor report for the third quarter of fiscal year 2018, $3.7 million or 33% of the town's expenditures to vendor was to local town of Mount Pleasant vendors, for a total year-to-date of $9.8 million or 31%. This concludes the report.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I do have one item for economic development.
Sure, yes, sir.
I'll dispense with the discussion on plastic bags and move directly to the committee did go into executive session to discuss contractual matters related to an economic development incentive grant, and we will be discussing that item as one of our executive session items tonight.
Thank you. Very well. I will mention for Patriots Point Development Authority as your designee to that work will continue on the right-of-way exchange agreement that we all received information about in an executive session. So that is a work in progress, and it will be a very intense work in progress. Any other committee reports? We will conclude that then and move on to item number 10, Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of council, announcing 2 vacancies, one on the Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee and the other on the Historical Commission.
Great. Does that conclude that
Yes, sir.
report? Yes, sir. Thank you. Item number 11, council business, new business. Number 1, first reading of an ordinance to adopt and appropriate a budget for the town of Mount Pleasant for fiscal year 2019.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved.
First reading ordinance number 18032, an ordinance to adopt and appropriate a budget for the town of Mount Pleasant for fiscal year 2019.
Agenda item number 2, a resolution by the town of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, making a declaration of intent to enter into lease purchase agreements.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve in a second. Yes, sir, Mr. Booster.
That's for vehicles
Yes, sir. And large equipment.
and large, okay.
Vehicles and large equipment. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Do you need to read it?
Well, oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Number
Yes,
two.
sir. You're
Right.
correct. Resolution 18042.
Number 3, resolution by the town of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, making a declaration of intent pursuant to United States Treasury Department Internal Revenue Service Regulation 1.150-2.
Yes, sir. If the budget is approved, it announces the intent for a general obligation bond for the Public Services Operations Center and the renovation expansion of Fire Station 4.
Got it.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. I guess you.
Resolution 18043.
Got it. Item number 4 is first reading of an ordinance to amend section 114.06 of chapter 114 accommodations fee of the Mount Pleasant Code of Ordinances pertaining to the distribution of funds. Any detail on that?
Marcy, real quick.
Yes, sir. What this does is this references in the distribution of funds all the allowances per the state code. So if the state code changes their accommodations tax, we automatically are applying under that.
Got it. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve and a second by Mr. Owens. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved.
First reading ordinance number 18033, an ordinance to amend section 114.06 of chapter 114 accommodations fee of the Mount Pleasant Code of Ordinances pertaining to the distribution of funds.
Item number 5 is a resolution authorizing a loan application by Mount Pleasant Waterworks relative to the Park West Force Main Replacement Project.
Motion to approve.
Have a
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Resolution 18044.
We already covered item B, old business, when we amended the agenda. This moves us to item C, which is executive session. Is there a motion that we go into executive session for the purposes of a legal and contractual matter in the consideration of an economic development incentive grant? And number 2, for personnel to make appointments to the Planning Commission.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Before we vote, I will read post-executive session. Council may take action on any item listed on an executive session agenda or discussed in an executive session during a properly noticed meeting. All in favor of the motion to enter into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are in executive session.
You know what? I have to use your restroom. Is there one left?
Okay. All right. All right.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We don't have much of an audience.
All right. Oh, come on. Council will reconvene from executive session. No votes were taken in executive session. We are in Section C, and now we are in post-executive session, Section D. Are there any motions to arise from deliberations in executive session?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Mr. George Gates to the Planning Commission.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to appoint Mr. George Gates signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a new appointee to Planning Commission. Is there another recommendation, Mr. Brimmer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion that we ask staff to proceed as discussed in executive session on the economic development project that was discussed.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Is there anything else to come before this council? If not, we stand adjourned.